mute it. No, no. Good thing it's chill office hours. Ah, the music was muted too. Oh no, hold on. Wait a second. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Run it back. We always do that on chill office hours. Wind up there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, where you're coming from. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome to another chill office hours. Glasses are fogging up a little bit. That's how you know. It's how you know it's good. When the glasses are fogging up, that's how you know the music's good. What's going on, everybody? Hope you all are doing well. Happy Sunday if it's still Sunday for you. Welcome to our another chill office hours. We keep the tunes a rolling, and if you got questions, hopefully I got answers. And so yeah, we like to take our Sundays a little bit chill, do a little bit of review, and it's mainly just questions. And I answer mainly questions typically about becoming a software engineer, questions about what it's like to work in the industry, not so much always just code, right? Maybe all the other stuff around coding. So welcome, get comfy. I got my tea. Let's see. Here we go. There we go. Welcome, everybody. Get in here. Hope you're doing well. All right. So if you want to, you can always do !ask, and that'll give you the Slido code for today. The Slido code for today is 807463. 807463. And so that'll enable you to enter your questions into Slido. And the cool thing about Slido is that we can upvote questions that we like. And so what I'll do is I'll just go through the top questions. Typically our office hours go for about 3 hours, but we'll see how the questions are coming in. And yeah, I like to go through as many as we can, and as they come in, let's do it. You can also ask questions in chat. I try to pay attention to chat too and answer some of those that are coming in. And yeah. I'll let some of the questions get in here, let folks get in here. We're gonna have a good one. Making a PowerPoint on the history of programming? Huh. That's cool. I tune in for motivation. The Trophosaro kicked my ass this past week, but you still made it. Hey, glad you're here. That was gonna be. Did I catch any shiny Bulbasaur yesterday? Nah. I pretty much slept all day yesterday. What tea are you drinking today? I'm drinking the Tazos morning, the English breakfast one. Yeah, it's pretty decent. I felt like a stronger tea this morning. Liam, thank you for the hydration. Cookie, thank you for the 11 months. Are you left or right-handed? I am right-handed. I do some stuff with my left hand though. I credit that to juggling. I picked up juggling when I was younger, and now I do some stuff with my left hand. Eric, are you drinking the same thing? As dope. Hey. Alrighty. We got some questions coming in. Let's take a look at some of these questions that are coming in. Once again, you do !ask if you need the Slido code. When I said, which one is better? Full-time job, full-time freelancer, or a mix? I think that's really dependent on each person. For me, the full-time job gives you a lot of stability, right? You don't need to be bringing clients in, right? And so the full-time job, I think for most folks, is a way better deal. You make 6 figures if you've worked up to that, right? And you don't ever have to worry about like bringing in the bacon. Freelancing, you typically, if you're working with yourself, don't have like a boss, but that means everything is on you. That means you're the one that's bringing in the clients. It means you're the one that's handling your benefits. There's all that stuff that comes at play. So I think for 95% of people, they'd be way better off with a full-time job that pays good money, that brings in good benefits, and they don't have that extra stress of bringing in clients. But if you know that you're a person that loves sales, that loves interacting with clients, then yeah, maybe that could be a good fit for you. I think everyone should at least work for a year, like at a company, like a real company, before they kind of venture out onto freelancing. And I would never quit a job to do full-time freelancing until I had some evergreen clients, meaning that clients that come back to you like every month for more work. If you don't have like 3 to 6 months of work booked out with some clients that constantly come back to you, you're not ready to do the freelancing full-time. At least that, in my opinion. Because I think if you don't have those 3 to 6 months of work booked out, you don't have those recurring clients, it's just so stressful. And some people really enjoy that, and by all means, go ahead and do it. But if you're asking my advice is which one should you go with, yeah, get a regular job, build up your bankroll, build up your client base, and when you have that 3 to 6 months of work booked out, you have more work coming in than you can realistically handle, then it's probably a good time to start freelancing. Yeah. Do you think part-time freelancing works? Yes. That's the other beautiful thing is, right? Like, I rather work and then freelance on the side, because that way I know I have that stable check coming in every 2 weeks or whatever, however frequently you're paid, right? You have that stable check coming in, and then your freelancing is just all on top, right? It's just all on top, right? And so for me, I think in the last 10 years, I've never not had like freelancing on the side. I don't think there was a period in my last 10 years of working a regular job that I didn't also have something that I did like during the nights and weekends. And so that's been a really nice boost in money coming in, and enables me to work on different problems that I find fun and exciting. Yeah. Sarah said, what do portfolio and mock interview via channel points do? So right now, most of you are too early for portfolio reviews and mock interviews, so I wouldn't waste your channel points on them. But when we get into the job hunt, or the hunt as we call it around here, you're going to want to make sure that your portfolio is like on point. You want to make sure that you can do well in interviews. And so a mock interview is just a practice interview. And so I wouldn't waste your channel points on those things now. But when we get further into the program and you're ready to start interviewing, that's when those become handy. Do you get a business license for freelance? Every country is different, and even some states in the US are different. But most of the time, you don't need like a separate business entity when you're first starting. Like, you can get a couple clients coming in the door, and then use that money to set up your entity if you would like. But yeah, so you can, but it's not 100% necessary right out the gate. As I said, can you explain why we shouldn't use div? It's not that we shouldn't use div. It's just that there are a lot more semantic choices other than a div. So whenever you go to use a div, there's probably a slightly better choice than the div in terms of like the semantic meaning. Yeah. All right, folks, let me make sure the CC is on. Oh, let's see. Hold on 1 second here. Boom. Putting on the closed captioning. All right, here we go. Extensions. And go here. And there we go. All right, cool. Boom. All right, captions should be live for folks that need the closed captioning. Nope. Alrighty, there we go. Did you see that there's a new season of Too Hot to Handle? I did. I haven't started it yet though, Softest. Thank you for letting me know though. I did see it. For those that are new around here, I love trash television, specifically like dating shows and reality television. A lot of our practice assignments will be like related to that type of television, and so yeah, 90 day, that's a whole other level. I think there's like a level where you can kind of like keep your dignity intact, and then there's like just right at that edge where you look over, that's where 90 day is. Now I have watched a lot of it. But just saying. Yeah, when you get into that TLC rabbit hole, then you've gone too far. You've gone too far. Alrighty, folks. Let's look at some of the questions that are coming in on the Slido. First question is, how do you recommend keeping your files organized? Can you go over the structure of project folders and files? So I think the easiest thing to do for this bootcamp is to have like a bootcamp folder, like 100 devs folder, and then inside of that bootcamp folder have a folder for each class. So class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, and put all of the materials inside of each class's folder. And then that's kind of all you got to do. And then that way you can just like open each class folder every class and know that everything from that class you're saving into that folder. So if you ever want to go back to what happened last class, you go to the class 4 folder, and then all your stuff is in there. Now, occasionally you might have some bigger projects that you would take out of those class folders, but I think that's the best way to start off. And until you needed to create more folders, I think that's probably where I would start. So yeah, like a bootcamp folder and then an individual folder for each class, and that should be all you need. Do we need to turn in the BBC homework again? No. If you turned in the BBC homework already, you're fine. I think I listed it underneath the work that was due from the last week because it was due from the last week, but I'm never going to ask you to turn in stuff twice. That wouldn't make too much sense. Yeah, so don't worry about turning it again if you already turned it in. When will we know what house we are in? So you are already in House Hamilton. So you already have a house. For folks that would like to apply to touring or Hopper, we'll be sharing more about that this week. So you're already in a house, you're already in Hopper. You're already in Hamilton. If you want to be in Hopper or touring, we'll share more about that this week. But like I said again, and I'll keep saying it, it really doesn't matter what house you're in. If you pay attention, you follow along, you get all your work done, you do all the things that I asked, you're going to be in the exact same situation as anybody in a different house. It's really just so that I have a smaller group of folks that I can give some energy to, just because there's thousands of y'all. So that's all it really is. So I wouldn't stress too much about different houses. You're already in Hamilton, the biggest house that already has the most folks that have gotten jobs. So yeah. Next question from Orion. Thank you for everything you're doing for all of us. You're giving us so much time and energy. How can we give some of it back? I can go this way. What can we do to help? So if you want to give back, if you want to help, jump in those help channels. That's the best thing you can do to help, is if you understand how to answer questions that somebody's struggling with, jump in that help channel, jump in their thread and see if you can help them through the thing that they're struggling with. And so that's what I ask, is I want you to live up to this community. We're here to help each other, to push each other. And so let's make sure if there are folks that are struggling or need some help, that you jump in and you give them some time. If that's what you want to do, I would love it. Next question. Can you show us some of your Anki flashcard and your Anki routine? Like, how much time a day do you do it for? I can show you a little bit. I normally review on my phone, so I don't have that set up to like share with y'all, but I can show you some of like my older stuff on my computer. Your Anki routine is going to be very different for each person. So that's why I'm always apprehensive to answer this, is because some people need way more time on Anki and some people need less time on Anki. It all depends on how steep your forgetting curve is, right? It depends on how steep your forgetting curve is. Some people forget stuff like immediately. There are just some folks that they don't get the 30 days. It's immediately like, boom, they learned it, they forgot it. And so for folks that are like that, you're going to need way more time on Anki than if you don't have that. And so for me, when I first start something new, when I first started using Anki, I was probably spending about 2 hours a day on Anki. Yeah, I was probably spending about like 2 hours a day on Anki, and then I now do about half an hour a day. Right, I do about half an hour a day, but that's me, right? I think that it's very personal, and how much time you throw into it is based on how much time you need to throw into it. Realms, thank you for the hydration. Robo, thank you for the most. Right, and so it really does come down to you. And so I think it's hard for me to say like you should do this amount of time. It's based on how much time do you need. Yeah. What position do you play in rugby? I'm a flanker, or I was a flanker. Yeah, so let me show you. I can show you like my cards. Like here's some from I do a lot of the MIT open coursewares, right? So these are kind of like they're MOOCs, but they're online courses. And so MIT's entire computer science curriculum is online. They're in literally their entire computer science curriculum is online. Every single course, a lot of times like the tests and quizzes, a lot of times like notes, like everything is there. So like if you wanted the best computer science education in the world, you can literally go on OpenCourseWare and watch every single MIT class that you would need to graduate. And in fact, there is this guy named Scott Young. I think his name is Scott Young. He actually put out a book about this too. Scott Young, that created what was called the MIT Challenge, where he did every single class he would need to graduate from MIT and made it all public. So you can see every quiz that he took, you can see every test that he took, you can see if he got like a good mark or a short or not a great mark, right? And so it was pretty cool. And so I've done a lot of their OpenCourseWare materials. A lot of them I really enjoy and recommend to folks once you kind of get a job. I think it's too much, too intense early on, but once you have a job and you want to start filling in that theory, then it's a really good source to come back to. Yeah, I think too many folks start off with it, and it's not a really good thing to start off with. It's not going to help you get a job, but it will help you it will help you fill in theory when you do get a job. And so this is their like intro math course. I was never really I never really had strong maths education, and so I really liked the MIT open source for math. And so what I do is I break down my Anki into individual decks. So I have a deck for pretty much every single like MIT class that I took, and then those decks are broken down into tags. And so like I have tags for like Python, I have tags for math, I have tags for computer science, I have tags for HTML, CSS, JavaScript, etc. And so when I do my study sessions, I could study the individual topic like math for CS, or I could study like a custom study session that's individual tags, or I could do a custom study session that's everything. And when I go to study these, so I could say like, what is a theorem? And then on my other card, it is a important true proposition, right? So if I didn't know what a theorem was, I could see it again in 10 minutes, but then you can see kind of like where my cards are at, right? You can see that my cards, and this is kind of a little hard to see, I know, because it's a little small, but you can see that mine are like, see it again in 10 minutes if I didn't know what it was. But then since I do it so often, my like card is 7 months later. It's 7 months later. And then like if I knew what it was off the jump, this one's, I won't see this one again for 5.8 years, right? And so that's kind of where you eventually get with your Anki decks. If you do them, like I do them every day. I don't always do this deck specifically every day, but eventually as you start doing them every day, and I do at least 30 minutes a day of Anki, you're going to start to see your time spans become really ridiculous. I have some of my main my main deck that I won't see for the rest of my life. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, so that's it. And my Anki deck's nothing really wild. Let's say I didn't get this one, so I see it again, right? It's just kind of questions, and then on the other side, answers, and that's kind of it. Like I don't do anything wild. I don't have anything kind of like unique that makes up my decks. I think a lot of people are like looking for like Anki secrets or stuff like that. There's nothing that I'm doing that's like really unique. I'm putting together like a larger video on this, so I'm not going to share everything, but there's nothing really to it. You make your questions, you put your answers. I don't really have that many plugins installed. I don't really have anything. And so Anki is just about doing it. And so don't think that you have to be doing all this wild stuff on Anki to get benefit out of it. I think a lot of people, when they approach Anki, they kind of slow themselves down. They're like, wait a minute, my decks aren't set up correctly, or maybe I don't have the right plugins, and they use that as an excuse to actually not do it. Right? Don't let that be an excuse to not do it. Right? Don't put that pressure on you that it has to be perfect, that it has to be right, that it has to be, that you're doing it in a not correct way. That's just something that might be holding you back from actually using it. Make cards and then review those cards. That's all you got to do for Anki. Make cards, review the cards. Eventually you can watch some YouTube videos. Eventually you'll watch my video on how to use Anki that I'm working on right now, and you might learn a little bit more about tagging. You might learn a little bit more about like custom study sessions, but you don't need any of that for right now. Create cards, review them. That's it. That's all you need. Process over product. Program said it's hard to know what I need to put into Anki. Just if you think you might need to know it again in the future, put it in Anki. Right? Just put it in. Right? Who cares? Who cares if it's not something you need to remember forever? You can always delete cards, and if you really know it, it eventually will not. You won't see it again for years, right? And so you'll always, like, if you know it, then great. You won't see it again for another 5 years. And if you really don't think you need to remember it, you can always delete it. So don't use that as an excuse either, right? Just make cards and review them. Who cares if they're the perfect cards? Who cares if they're cards that you're going to use again for the rest of your life? It just doesn't matter. Whatever you think might be important, put it in there. And when I started Anki, I definitely did put too many cards in, but that's okay. Eventually you get more comfortable with it. You get more comfortable with the things that you have to learn, but that takes a little while. That takes you getting back into the learning pattern. A lot of us haven't studied in a long time. And so, yeah, in the beginning, we're going to be too heavy handed with it, but you'll get better with time. Yeah. How do you delete an Anki card? You can just do it from the cards. Yeah, you just go into where the cards are and you can delete them. My excuse for not using Anki is that it's so boring to look at. You can actually like change the styling of it. Ramos, thank you for the hydration. Trucker, thank you for the posture check. I think I'm doing good. We just started. Hey, Blah. What's your favorite TY Beanie Baby? Wow, that green frog was always dope. I like the green frog. What tips do you have at this stage of our journey for networking and building your brand on Twitter? So we haven't, networking hasn't been a requirement yet, right? It's something that I mentioned that we're going to be doing, but it hasn't been a hard requirement. As we move into like this and next week, when it does become a requirement, we're going to have more classes like on it. Like we're going to talk more about it during class. But the tips I have for networking are to make friends. That's all networking should be at this stage, is making friends. If somebody does something that you're interested in, if somebody does something that you think is cool, reach out to them, let them know it's cool, and make a friend. That's kind of it. If you don't know how to make friends, I recommend the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. You could find it for free online. But yeah, How to Win Friends and Influence People if you don't know how to make friends. But yeah, so that's it. Make friends. It sounds weird, but it's all it is. That's all networking should be. If you're going into it with other intentions, then it's not going to work out well. I'm a depressed introvert. That's okay. There are plenty of other depressed introverts online that would love to make friends and interact with you. And there are definitely different tips and tricks you can do if you're an introvert, and we're going to talk about them during class. Yeah, it's about finding it's about finding what's comfortable for you, right? Everybody's going to have something that's way more comfortable for them than it is for others, right? So maybe going to like a conference isn't your speed, but maybe reaching out to somebody on Discord is, right? And so it's about finding what works for you. And here's the thing, getting a job will be dependent on how well you network. And so it's crucial that you find the thing that helps you to network. If you're an introvert, you can't just say, I'm an introvert, I'm not going to network. It's just not going to work out well for you. You might as well stop the program right now and go do something else, right? You got to find the thing that works for you. Find the things that enables you to interact with others, to make friends, and keep pushing. And like I said, when we get to that in class, I'll spend some time on it. Like the tips and tricks that I've seen other folks that are introverted do well. But you can't let that hold you back. Do I use a standing desk? I do. Yeah, I think that's a gut grinder said. Gut grinder. What did you say? Introvert means that you need quiet time to recharge, not that you aren't social. You can make friends and express your needs for quiet time. I think that's important to remember. Yeah. And that's the beauty right now, that everything is remote, right? I think for some folks that are introverted, like back in the day, and this is like 2 years ago, my students that were introverted had to go to events, right? They had to go to events, and that was super overwhelming, and they would need to leave once it got too overwhelming, right? But the beautiful thing now is that you're home. You can do most of these events remotely. And so when it becomes too much and you need that quiet time to recharge, you can just like click out of the event and go do what you need to do. And so take advantage. If you are introverted, this is the best time ever to network and make friends in the industry, because so much stuff is remote. It's an absolute blessing right now. Yeah. Saturnalia said, you said we should not say aspiring software engineers. Do you have any tips on how we can confidently say that and back it up, knowing that we are aspiring? You're not aspiring. You're not. If you wrote code last week, you're no longer aspiring. You're a software engineer. That's it. Say it with your chest. Exactly. Did you build a site with HTML last week? Have you started your site with HTML and CSS this week? Because if you have, you're a software engineer. Now you might not know everything, right? You might not know everything there is to know, but no software engineer does. You could have the best software engineer in the world that every day writes freaking COBOL, and you put them down to learn HTML and CSS, they're gonna be at the same exact starting point that you were. So it's not that you are not a software engineer, it's that you are a software engineer that is learning HTML and CSS. Any software engineer doesn't know how to program in every single language. They start at the beginning like you all are doing. So you are all software engineers that are at the beginnings of learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Node, React, MongoDB, right? And so you're no longer aspiring. If you wrote code last week, that's done. It's over. You're now a software engineer. And so you just got to hold yourself to it. Is it normal to feel overwhelmed already? Absolutely. This is hard. This is not easy, right? There's a reason why not everyone pursues software engineering. It's definitely a long trough of sorrow. And you're going to feel, unfortunately, overwhelmed most of the time. This stuff's not easy to learn. This stuff is not easy to have it stick. And you got to keep pushing along, or else it won't. And so, yeah, definitely okay to feel overwhelmed. Definitely okay to feel behind. And realistically, those feelings often don't go away. I still, like, when I'm learning new things, I get the imposter syndrome. I get the feeling that I'll never learn it. It's just something you have to push through as a software engineer. Cool. Study groups when, and how many people should we expect in each group? This survey is probably going out today or tomorrow. And then we'll be putting folks into groups this week. It depends on how many people are in each group, but they'll be smaller. Yeah, the idea is to give you a smaller group of people. We'll have some groups that'll probably be larger, like in the hundreds, and then we'll probably have some that are smaller. But yeah, the idea is just to we have 21,000 people on Discord. The idea is to give you a smaller group to interact with. Individual sizes will be dependent on how many people fall into that group. Yeah. But the idea is that there has to be a good mix of folks for that group to be made. So if there's only 5 of y'all, you're probably not going to have a group. But if there's 100 of y'all, you'll probably get a group. We'll be able to move between groups. You won't actually know what groups there are. So most of them will be hidden so that we don't have people like jumping into other ones. Yeah. Leon, can you explain ClearFix in simple terms? Well, we haven't covered ClearFix yet. We're going to cover that in class, but we haven't gotten to ClearFix or Clear or any of that stuff in class yet. So we will be doing that in class. Yeah. What if we can see hidden groups? Then you're lucky. Yeah. Archived are not hidden groups though. Everyone can see the archived groups so that you can search through them in the past. Yeah. So we archived a lot of groups on Discord, but there is a lot of information in those groups that we didn't want people to not be able to see anymore. So you should be able to see the archived classes, but you just can't post in them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So ClearFix. All ClearFix is the ability to not have stuff collapse, right? That's all it does. It just stops stuff from collapsing. And so we'll see that in class and how you can use it to stop stuff from collapsing. Oh, there's a second part to this question. What tips do you have at this stage of our journey for networking and building your brand on Twitter? I'm not good at Twitter. I don't know how to build a brand. Like, it's not something I put time into. It's not something that I'm invested in. There are some folks that are really about it. I really only use Twitter to like talk to people that I want to talk to and to, like, post stuff about the course. So I'll definitely have no idea how to build a brand. I definitely have no idea. Yeah, it's just not something I'm good at. It's not something I'm intentional about. So I think there are probably some better folks on Twitter that you could follow for that type of stuff. I like Sam a lot. Sam, one of our alumni. You can do !Sam here in chat, and they're a beast at it. Probably the best person I've seen at building a brand on Twitter. Hey, Sam in chat, what's going on? But yeah, I think Twitter, same thing. It's just making friends, right? You can make friends in Twitter Spaces. You can make friends in just topics that you care about. And the beautiful thing is that, oh, Nick's here too. DeJesus is really good at building a brand online too. So yeah, I think those are folks that I would follow. You can see the DeJesus had the mod. They're pretty great on Twitter as well. I would follow those folks. Next question. Can you talk more about this gold rush in coding? Can you talk more about this gold rush in coding? You getting rated? No, we're not getting rated. This is just how many people show up. That's pretty funny. Yeah, no, this is not combined raids. This is all the folks that are giving up some time on their Sunday to answer some questions and hang out. But I think that's pretty funny. Can you talk more about this gold rush in coding? What's driving it? Did demand explode or did supply change? So what happened is that every company became a tech company. Like, every company needed a website, every company needed some way of interacting with their customers. And then as they became more digital, they needed web applications. So every company is a tech company now, right? And so the idea about this gold rush is just that every company is a tech company. They all need applications that serve their own business needs. And so that kind of drove it, right? Then we had an explosion in kind of other kind of startups and other things that kind of grew the tech ecosystem. So the tech ecosystem has been growing. Every company is a tech company. And with that, the demand exploded as well. If you look at like the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they're saying like a 1 to 2 million like increase in need for developer positions. And so the gold rush is the demand grew exponentially. And so that's where you're seeing it. Yeah. You can also say like globalization too, but here it's Simba. Alumni Twitter space. Yeah, we're aiming for that for Friday. Favorite video game songs. Well, the best MIDI music is always gonna be Pokemon. Ocarina of Time. That's an interesting question. Let me think about it. Hollow Knight's up there for sure. Final Fantasy VII. Ah, yeah, it's a good one. Any of the GTA stuff, yeah. All right, next question here. How are you today? I'm doing okay today. I'm doing okay. I got my booster shot on Friday. And all day yesterday I slept. I was kind of like, definitely felt like achy and had like a bad headache and felt just like sore and like tired. And so I just slept all day yesterday. I drank a bunch of fluid, ordered like soup. And so, yeah. So yesterday was kind of, I want to say it was rough. It was definitely just like I'm glad I had Saturday to just like sleep and to rest and to drink fluids. And now I feel okay. I'm at like 90%, I think, right now. So I feel better. I don't feel like achy like I did yesterday. I don't feel like I have the headache anymore. Definitely my maybe mood a little bit lower than normal, but yeah. Yeah. So got it Friday, Saturday, slept, and now I feel okay. Yeah. Thank you for asking. For Thursday's lab homework, the image needed to be above the P tag for it to float properly. Why is that? So when you use float, what you're doing is enabling stuff to move around that content, right? And so if you have the paragraph first and you do float, the float's really only going to be affected by the stuff that comes after. And so if you want the text to wrap around the image, you need the image to be floating so that the text can slide around it, right? And so that's why the order matters there. If you put the image after, it's just going to go over to the right or to the left, but the text is going to stay there. If you want the text to wrap around, the image needs to be first, and then it moves around the thing that's floated. You kind of take it out of the page order. When you float something, you're floating it off the page, and so then the text can wrap around it. Yeah. But we'll see it all together this week. What's the difference between the BBC homework returned in Thursday and the BBC homework due this week? There is no BBC homework due this week. You already turned it in. I think there's like there's something that was saying make sure you finish all this stuff from last week, and the BBC was on that list because it was there last week. So you're not turning in the BBC again. What kind of projects are valuable to have on your portfolio? So just the projects we do here. The projects that we do here are all the things that you'll need. You don't have to do anything extra. For your portfolio, it makes sense for the portfolio to have some sort of theme or structure, right? And so if you are coming from the restaurant industry. Maybe you are a waiter, right? Having most of your apps doing with food or restaurant industry would make more sense. And so if we did something like, let's say we did a calculator, you shouldn't have calculators on your portfolio, but let's say we did a calculator, right? Yours shouldn't be a calculator. It should be a tip calculator, right? Because you're tying, right? You're tying your past into your present. If we did a, I don't know, if we did a memory game where you have to like flip over cards, yours should be all food related, right? And so the idea here is that you're trying to find projects, and at least the projects that you create, tying into your past, right? And kind of giving a rhyme and reason why you're where you are right now. And then most importantly is that you do projects that you've built on your own, right? If you go into an interview and you just have all these boot campy-esque projects, you're using calculators and tic-tac-toes and stuff like that, you're gonna have a really hard time getting to the next round of the interview, because you're gonna be perpetuating that like boot campy smell, right? Yeah. And so the big thing we do here is that we have a lot of projects. For every project, I'm going to tell you to make it your own, to make it different, to do it in a slightly different way, right? Yeah. Right. And so what you want to make sure is that you're changing them all to match your kind of like your theme, right? You're matching them all to what you've done in the past. And then you have projects that you've built on your own, things that nobody else would ever have in their portfolio. You want to go into an interview. Sorry, I gotta chill the music for a second. You want to go into an interview with projects you can talk about that the other person knows that you didn't follow a tutorial for. And that's what the 100 hours project is for. The 100 hours project, right, is to show to employers, hey, I built this thing from scratch. I built it on my own. I didn't follow a tutorial to do it, right? I built it. And then they're going to ask you tons of questions about it. Half of the jobs that folks got, right? Like half the jobs that folks got, they didn't have technical interviews. They got asked a metric crap ton about all the projects in their portfolio. They got asked a metric crap ton about their 100 hours project, but they didn't actually have to do like coding challenges. And so if you want to make sure that you stand out when you go into like actual interviews, you want projects that have a coherent theme as to why you're there right now as a software engineer, and you want projects that you've built from scratch on your own. If you have those two things, your portfolio is like really ready to go. People are asking about math. You don't really need math for what we do. If you're just being a full stack web developer, you don't need math. I do recommend learning math once you get a job and somebody's paying you. Go back, do the math for computer science on MIT, but in the beginning, you don't need that stuff. If I don't have prior work experience, what would my portfolio theme be? Something about what you're interested in, something that represents you. Yeah. But all that stuff we'll get to later. You're kind of jumping the gun here. We're not even building projects yet that'll be in your portfolio, so don't worry about that for too much right now. When it comes time to start building out a portfolio, we'll do it together. We'll have whole classes on how to build portfolios. Yeah. Could you explain Clearfix? We're going to do this during class, but I can do a quick explanation. Pull up my my AstroPad 1 second. What's my take on Web3? Should we have a class on it? We won't cover any Web3 stuff together here. We're focused on getting folks jobs, and right now that's full stack JavaScript. All right. Let's say we have a container. Say we have a section. All right. And inside of that section, we have 3 sections. Right now, the height of this outer section is coming from the height of each of these sections, right? So let's say that these individual sections are all 100 pixels tall, right? They're all 100 pixels tall. So that means the height of this outer container is what? What would the height of the outer container be? Yeah, the height of the outer container would be 300 pixels, maybe a little bit more if the border had some pixel value, right? If the borders had pixels, it might be a little bit bigger. If there was some pixels for the margin or whatever, there might be a little bit bigger. But let's just say that there's no gaps. I just suck at drawing. Don't blame me, blame the nuns. And let's say there's no pixels for the border, right? We're just using this as an example. All right, so that means the outside container has a height of 300 pixels. Now, I haven't given the outer section a height of 300 pixels. The outer section, right, is getting its height from the content that is inside. If I removed all three of these sections, what would the height of this outer section be? 0. Yeah, it would collapse, right? It would collapse. It'd be 0. That's exactly what happens when you float the content inside of a container, right? So if I, instead of deleting or getting rid of, I floated all 3 of these sections, right? That outer section would collapse, right? It would collapse. Even though the elements are still in there, right? Even though the elements are still in there, it would collapse, right? It would collapse because the inner sections are floated, right? So what Clearfix does, and depending on what Clearfix you use, what Clearfix will do is it's going to look at the content that's in here. And what it's going to do is going to put a little dot after the content, right? It's going to put a little dot after the content, right? You can see this dot here. I'm going to put a little dot after the content. So no matter what you do now, no matter if you float these, you do something to them, right? That little dot's going to stay in that place. And so when you float these, instead of the outside container collapsing, right? Instead of it collapsing, it still wraps around that dot. So the height doesn't collapse. So you wind up not having these individual elements collapsing because the content inside of it doesn't matter what happens anymore. The outer box, right? The outer container is no longer paying attention to the inner stuff. It's just paying attention to this dot. So no matter what happens, it doesn't collapse anymore. And that's what we're worrying about when it comes to the clear fixing. Yeah. And that's it. And we're going to cover this. We're going to cover this when we get in class, but that's the idea, is that it just stops the outer containers from collapsing when they don't have height. Yep. What does the element look like? You won't actually see it. It'll just be an invisible dot. Yeah. And so a lot of people ask me, Leon, like, why floats? Like, why do you teach floats? I teach floats because this shit's way harder to understand than Flexbox. Like, all these like quirks and stuff like that are way harder to learn and understand. And so many of my students get on the job and one of their first projects is to convert an old landing page to a new landing page. And if the old landing page is all floats, they're fucked. They really just are. And so I like to teach floats because it comes up so much for folks that are like earlier in their career. And then once you're working on something more modern, you'll use Flexbox and CSS Grid and all that fun stuff. So I like to teach it because I think you're going to run into it, and I want you to be prepared when you run into it. All right. Next question. Vinny said, what's the best way to catch up if I joined a week and a half late? All of our videos. So if you go into our Discord follow along materials channel, you'll see everything that was due for each class. You'll see links to all the videos. And so jump in the class one and catch up at your own time. Join the catch up crew on Discord. We'd love to have you. In that sense, would you teach class-based React with hooks-based? Yeah, I teach class-based React and then hooks. Because once again, I think you're going to run into it, and I want you to be prepared. On Discord. Yeah, there's a catch-up crew on Discord. Cool. When interviewing, how do I spot a toxic employee and a toxic employer? So here's my thing when interviewing. Nothing matters. I don't care if they're the worst company you've ever interacted with. I don't care if they're the best company. Interview until you get an offer. Once you have an offer, then all the power shifts to your side. So they could literally be the worst people you've ever met in your life. It does not matter. Get an offer. Once you have that offer, you can ask all the questions you want. You can use that to negotiate other offers. So even if you're just having a like a bad experience with a group of people, like just get the offer, right? And so I think that's just important. I think a lot of people like try to like shut themselves off early, like I don't like this company or I don't like what they work on. It just doesn't matter. Get the offer, and then you can use that offer, right? You can use that offer to help with a different one, or once you do have the offer, you can ask them all the questions that you want. What I like to think about is the way that individuals treat you during the interview is the way they're going to treat you on the job. So if you get any inklings, if you get any, like if they're treating you poorly, if you don't feel respected, like that's all going to magnify once you're on the job. And so interviews are two-way streets. Interviews are two-way streets. Yes, they're interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them. You're thinking about, would you want to work here? And once you get the offer, you really do interview them. You ask them tons of questions. You don't leave anything on the table. Joining a company is a big decision. You might be there for 3, 4, 5 years. Maybe the main way you bring in money to support yourself and your family. Like making these decisions shouldn't come lightly, but get the offer and then ask all your questions. And when we get to the hunt and we get to that during class, we'll talk more about interviewing and how to do it correctly. After my 45-minute interview, I interviewed them for about 20 minutes. Hey, there you go. Will this be the last Discord for 100 devs if we meet the goal for 100 hires? Like, do you mean this will be the last cohort? I don't think this will be the last cohort. I think we're having too much fun. I fired the interviewer. All right. Next question. What's your view on THC or psychedelics? My view is do you. I think everyone's different. I think everyone has things that really work for them and things that really don't work for them. I've had some friends that have amazing experiences on psychedelics, like life-changing experiences. And I've had some friends that have wasted away because of too much THC. So I think everybody's completely different. I think everyone has the capability of using things for good and using things as a crutch. And so just be careful out in these streets. But yeah, I don't think my view on this matters. It's your life. Don't get got. Exactly. Do you think the software engineer job market will be saturated? Hell no, never. I mean, you don't take my word for it. Just look at the Department of Labor statistics. Every company's a tech company, and at my day job where I help folks get jobs as well, we've had more demand now than we've ever seen in the past, I don't know, 5 years I've been doing this. I've literally seen the most demand ever. So some people are like, oh, job market's saturated. They have no idea. Like we're on the ground every day talking to employers. We're on the ground every day trying to help folks get jobs. And it's literally the most demand I've ever seen in my life. And of my 5 years of doing this day to day and in my 10 years of teaching people to code. Yeah, literally millions of jobs going unfulfilled. Exactly De Jesus. Will you ever be a guest speaker on Twitter Spaces? I've done one. One of my past students is now dev relations at GitHub, and I did their Twitter Space, but it's not really my jam. I think if I feel like I can help folks, or if I had something that I can help with, I'll do it. But yeah. Is the issue because everyone trying to get a FANG job? Is that why it seems saturated? I mean, yeah, I think there's people trying to sell you shovels right now, right? Lots of people that are trying to sell you shovels, and you got to be careful out there, right? A lot of people on YouTube are trying to get you into trying to sell you on like the FANG dream, and so you got to be careful with that. I don't think your first job you should shoot for FANG. There's so many other wonderful companies that pay well, have great work-life balance, and are very more realistic to obtain. K White said, if you don't want us to share our homework on Discord, how do we know if we're on the right track before it's too late? There's never a such thing as too late. You give it your best 100 devs try. If you have questions about specific pieces of your code, you ask questions on the specific pieces of code. But every single assignment is binary. Did you get it done or not? Did you finish your HTML or not? Especially when we get to like the CSS stuff now, does yours look like mine? If it looks like mine, you did a great job. Who cares about the code quality? You'll have plenty of time to worry about code quality. But yeah, does your code look like, does your lab from Thursday look like the photo? If it looks like the photo, you did well, right? That's it. You don't need me to bless your code. Does it look like the solution? Because if it does, then you did a great job. And then eventually I'll share my code and you can compare. Oh, Leon did this, I did that. Was Leon right? Was I wrong? Like you can spend more time getting that that repetition in, or that recall in. But the idea is in the beginning, it just doesn't matter. Does it look like the solution? If it does, good job. Yeah. And if you need help with a specific piece, that's what you have to use Discord for. Do you have any advice on how to deal with learning while coping with mental illness and adjusting to new medication to make you feel off? That's rough. For me, when I take a new medication, I'm kind of down for the count for a month or so. And so I don't have anything that's other than like, make sure you're taking care of yourself. When you switch medications, having other stuff in line does help, making sure that you have good sleep schedule, you're eating right, you're getting a little bit of exercise in. If you're not keeping life together in the other areas while you're switching to that new medication, it's very hard to then have time to focus on other stuff. And so if you're switching medications, just know that the very real possibility is that you might be out for the count for a little while, and that's okay. You can catch up. Join the catch up crew, and when you're feeling better and you feel a little bit more stable, come back and join us. I've been there. I've done that plenty of times. It's never fun to switch medication. And the only thing that I've ever seen really be consistent is like stay in contact with like your doctors, your therapist, if you have one. Give yourself a little bit of time, a little bit of grace, and know that you can always catch up. All right, let's do one more, and then we're going to take our top of the hour break. I see that work from home jobs are growing. Could you give us an example of what it would be like doing web dev at home for someone that hasn't done this kind of work yet? I mean, it's the same thing as being on the job. Each company is very different, but typically in the morning you'll have stand up, which is where you meet with your team and you talk about the things that you're going to get done that day. And then you'll have a number of tickets that you're working on, and tickets are kind of like goals or tickets are kind of like goals or things that you have to get done or things that you're building. And so you'll work on your tickets. If you need help, you'll ask for help, and you just kind of build those out. And then sometimes companies have stand up again at the end of the day, but it's kind of dependent on your team. And then you kind of do sprints, which are like either a week or 2 weeks. And so you have like a week to get done all those tickets that you got assigned. And so when you're working from home, you probably wake up, you go to stand up, you write some code for a little while, you have some breakfast or lunch, you review some of the stuff that's been coming through on GitHub or wherever you do your project management. Maybe you code a little bit more, maybe do a stand up again, and then you go home for you just turn off for the day. Working from home is amazing. I really enjoy it. I've done both, been in the office and I've been working from home. Working from home gives you a lot of flexibility. Being in the office gives you a little bit more chance to network. And so each company is better or worse at it. Some companies are really good with their remote culture, and some companies are just trying to catch up on working remotely. And so you got to keep that in mind. If you're working from home or you're joining a remote company, once you get the offer, you really got to make sure that their culture is a good culture, that they really understand what it is to work remotely. That way you don't have any of that stunted growth in making friends or colleagues. Cool. All right, folks. Let's go ahead and take our top of the hour break. If you're new around these parts, every hour we like to stay healthy. We're in it for the long haul. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Thank you for giving me some of your Sunday. I think it's fun answering these questions. And so let's go ahead and take our break. If you're able to, please get up, move around, hydrate, look at something that's not the screen, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. I'm gonna leave the tunes going, but I will see you all shortly. Dragon, I actually don't know the name of the intro song. I gotta look it up. It's through Streamlabs or through Stream Deck. Leon, what's the red Bob emote? That is John, Bob's evil brother. Are we ever going to see Simba Cam? Yeah, it'll come back eventually. Alrighty, folks, come on back. Come on back. Come on back. Jim said, have you had any students transfer to web development out of an established development career? Yeah, all the time. Once you know how to code, you kind of switch through on what you're interested in. Thoughts on Pokemon Legends? I don't have any thoughts yet. We'll see. When is it? It drops tomorrow, right? Or did it already come? Oh no, am I behind? The 28th. Okay. Okay. Y'all had me tripping for a second. It leaked already. Yeah, all the new ones have been leaking. I try not to Leon, I read on Glassdoor 51% of people in full stack web development move into software development. Well, full stack web development is software development, so I don't know. I think Glassdoor just like has a bunch of automated statistics, so not sure what that means. They're both the same thing, so I think they just have like automated statistics stuff. Making a website for a nonprofit be a good, it's not 1,000 hours, 100 hours project. No, it should be a full stack web application. So a website's not a good 100 hours project. No. Am I into hunting for shiny Pokemon? I have in the past. Not something I like super into. If I'm playing competitive, I really try to get like shinies for the competitive. I've been known to pay people to like get me competitive shiny mons. One of those people. We're not there yet. For folks asking like, what can we do for the 100 hours project? We're nowhere near 100 hours project yet. So don't worry, you don't have to jump the gun too much. When we get there, we get there, right? We literally only had 4 classes. So we're not ready to do a 100 hours project yet. But when we get there, we'll have plenty of time to talk through it and what is expected and how you'll do it. I wouldn't stress yourself too much about thinking about the project until we get closer. Does it matter that our code is different from the actual code on TechCrunch, BBC, Khan Academy? Like when I expect with DevTools, it's far different? Nah, it doesn't matter. You give that same project to 10 different developers, you're getting 10 different sets of code back. What you should be holding yourself to is, did you complete the mission, right? Like, did you get it done? Did you write HTML for it? And now that we're moving into HTML and CSS, does it look the way it should look, right? And so if it does, you're good. Don't worry about it. I was joking about making a Leon NFT generator for my 100 hours project. Now I'm considering it. Please don't. Your 100 hours project should be something that's like personal to you, and it shouldn't be like a gimmick. It shouldn't be a joke. It should be something that like reasonably ties in your past experience into why you're showing up today as a software engineer in their interview. And so you want to make sure it's something that like fits you and your past experience. But like I said, when we get there, we'll get there. A the Queen said, I'm struggling to stay on track. I have a 1-year-old and working. Would I still be okay to do this program? Yeah. We have the catch up crew for whenever you do fall behind. Definitely join our parenting groups on Discord as well. Lots of help to be had there. When does the boot camp end? It's a 30-week boot camp, so we got 28 more weeks to go. I want to make an open source delivery app to get people off of Uber and Postmates. That's a pretty cool app. I've had some past students do something similar, and it was really helpful when they were interviewing. Where can we go to read other people's code? I want to see what people currently in the industry are doing in their code. So there are plenty of places where you can go and look at that stuff. I use CodePen a lot to see smaller bits of code, but everyone's going to do it completely different. Like I think it's something that's really hard for folks to digest and understand. But if you really do give a project to 10 different engineers, you're getting 10 different sets of code back. And so, yeah, there are like best practices. There are similar things that you're going to see, but you'd be surprised how much bad code is out there, how much code varies so widely between different people, that like holding yourself to what other people are doing is kind of a fool's errand. But there are places you can go. GitHub, lots of code on there. CodePen, lots of smaller stuff for the HTML and CSS stuff that we're doing now. But yeah, hold yourself to completing the mission. That's what you should be doing right now. Are you completing the mission? Yes or no? If you are, then you're in a really good spot. And the other thing too is when you join companies, they're all going to have different best practices. They're all going to have different style guidelines. And so when you join a company, they're probably going to ask you to do stuff in a certain way. And that's how your code's going to be molded while you're at that company. Decoder said, how do we find a job with no work experience? Well, if you're doing this program, you will have experience. You will have all worked with a freelancing client. Most of you will have committed to open source projects. Most of you will have worked on a larger team project, and most of you will have sunk 100 hours into another project. All of that is more than enough to get your first job. Speaking of bad code, Khan Academy is bang important everywhere. Oh no. Will you be teaching stuff like Scrum, Safe, Lean? Nah, it's just not important to get your first job. We'll cover like the basics of Scrum, but that's about it. Those tools, each team's going to do something different, and you're better off just kind of learning what your team does when you get there. Yeah. And you'll all work within a team project where you'll learn some of those team skills as well. Leon, what was your first 100 hours project? My very first big project, I don't know how long ago was this, 14 years ago, was I made a reverse Craigslist. And so it was for folks could post what they needed, and folks would respond if they could give them those things. And so the idea was that it was for folks that needed help, right? And so it was a reverse Craigslist where let's say you need a winter jacket. You could post saying I need a winter jacket, and then folks could respond saying, oh, I have a winter jacket that you can give, or anything similar to that. And so we launched in a couple different cities, and it ran for quite a while. Yeah, it was pretty fun. All right, next question. How can we validate that our semantic HTML choices achieve the desired results? Our pages being as screen reader crawler accessible as we think we've made them. So you can actually use, so it doesn't, in the beginning, don't worry about this, right? In the beginning, just write your HTML. In the beginning, just write your HTML and CSS. Does it look like the photo that I gave you? If it looks like the photo I gave you, you've gone above and beyond. These are stuff that you stress yourself out when you're on the job, not when you're learning. So let's just make that very, very clear. This stuff is not important for your learning right now. This stuff will just add more stress onto your table. You have so many other things to go deep on, to focus on. Do not worry about writing the most semantically correct for screen readers, SEO, all that stuff. It's just going to take too much of your time. Does it look right? Does it look like the photo? If so, you're good. If you want, you can use a tool that's built into the browser. And so there's you can go to any website. Oop, I clicked somebody's wrong one, my bad. You can go to any website. Like if we go to like, I don't know, let's do light.cnn.com. You can right click inspect and then Lighthouse, and you can generate a report. Let's generate a desktop report. And so this will tell you some basics, not everything. There's way more things to like checklists and things that people run through, but just to give you a rough idea of where you're at. The site needs to be hosted if you want to use Lighthouse. Yep, but if you're using things like Glitch, it's already hosted. Cool. So you can see right here, it went through and did all the tests, right? Went through and did all the tests. We have performance, accessibility, best practice SEO. And it kind of just tells you like, this is like a good starting point, right? It's a good starting point, right? To see like, oh, what you did well, what you didn't do well. But you can see there's so much stuff on here that it's checking. So when you're 2 weeks into HTML and CSS, none of this matters. Keep your learning up. You're way better off putting time into your spaced repetition, way better off putting time into your active recall, way better off doing the reading, way better off all that stuff. But if you want to take a peek at it, like Divkar mentioned, it has to be hosted. So you need to use a platform that lets you host your code or hosting your code. So we're not there yet, so don't worry about it, right? But this will give you a good starting point and some things you'd have to fix if you wanted to do it right. By all means, not the end all be all, but like I said, at least a decent starting point. That was Lighthouse, which is part of the Google tools. Yeah, so it's part of your dev tools. You go to a website, right? So we went to like the light.cnn website just so people can see it again. I right clicked, inspect, and then you have like all these different options, but the very last option is Lighthouse. That's what we did, Lighthouse. How many people finished the course from last cohort? 75 people got full-time jobs out of that, but how many finished? I have no idea. So this is all public, right? This is all public. I don't lock anything behind a paywall. I don't lock anything behind something where you would need to like tell me that you're participating, right? So we could have had thousands upon thousands of people and I just wouldn't know. If you look at some of our public stuff to get a rough idea, we were averaging around like 220 viewers per class was kind of the average that we locked into. If you look at any of our public kind of like some of our public like GitHub repos, you're seeing like 120 folks that were submitting to those repos. So if you kind of take that somewhere between like 120 and 200 and 75 got jobs, you know, that's rough estimates. It's easier for other boot camps that like make you sign up that aren't open and make you pay, right? Like if you had to pay, I would have like all your info, but I don't. So we get rough numbers. Next question. After a company makes you an offer, how do you use that to get better offers from other companies? Wouldn't the first company be expecting a quick response? They will be sometimes, but here's what you do. Hey, I've really enjoyed every single person I met at the company. I really love Bob, Joe, Sarah, everyone I've interacted with. I could really see myself here for the next 5 years. I want to grow with this company. That being said, this is a huge decision for myself and my family. It's going to take me some time to weigh out whether or not this is the best move forward for me. I think it is. I think this is where I want to be, but this is a 5-year decision for me. So I need some time to make a decision that impacts the next 5 years of my life. I would really appreciate if you've given me until after the weekend to get back to you. And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, okay, like take until after the weekend. And then once you have that kind of that week or long weekend to get through it, then you go back to the other companies that you're interviewing with and you say, hey, look, I had an offer. Is there any way that you can expedite the process or get me an offer soon? And a lot of times once somebody knows that you have an offer from somewhere else, they kind of speed up their offers to you. And then once you have those offers, there are things you can do to play them off of each other to make more money. But yeah, so the idea is that these are huge decisions. Like, don't let anybody bully you or pressure you into making a decision that like decides like some of the most important stuff in your life for the next 3 to 5 years, right? It determines your salary, it determines what you spend with, like, this is what you spend half your days doing, right? Like, no, if somebody wants a next day response, they can go fuck themselves. You got to make sure that you stick to your guns here. And it also costs companies a lot of money and time to find someone they actually want to hire, right? It costs them upwards of $30,000, right? It costs them upwards of $30,000 to find someone they want to hire. And so once they do make an offer, they want you. Don't let them think that they can just do whatever they want. No, they want you. And since they want you, they got to do a little bit of stuff that's in your favor too. Hi, Leon. I live in Poland and I'm always asleep during live classes. Can you post homework submission links a few hours earlier so we can submit it on time? No, unfortunately, I can't. So I have a day job, right? And so since I have a day job, I can't do stuff during like any other hours. I do stuff after hours. So if my day is done at 5, that means I have like a small window to submit all this stuff, get everything ready for class. Like, yeah, I just don't have time. Case, thank you for the hydration. In today's day and age, could you, for example, live in Florida but apply for LA, San Francisco, New York City based companies? Yeah, you can. Being local is always a benefit though. Being local is a competitive advantage over folks that are remote. And so I think a lot of people want remote jobs, but no, remote jobs are harder to get. They're harder to lock down. You have to be more prepared to get those jobs. Being local is always a competitive advantage. What's the time window for submissions after the form goes live? If you want to be in Turing and Hopper, they're due immediately before class starts. Anybody else has 24 hours to get stuff in. Yeah. So if you want to be in Turing or Hopper, you have to submit it before class starts, because the expectation is that you're joining us live. For everyone else, Hamilton, etc., it's 24 hours. Do local get paid more than remote developers on average? Every place pays differently, so it's kind of hard to compare local to remote because the actual salaries range so much depending on which city you're in. Yeah. But right now, nothing's a hard requirement. Yeah. Should everyone experience Silicon Valley? It's up to you. Some people like it, some people don't. I think there are many places that have great companies, great work-life balances, great money. You don't need to move out to San Francisco if you don't want. Do we need a screenshot of our typing homework? No. I am confused with block level and inline elements. I can't seem to get myself to understand them. Can you explain these? We haven't gotten to that in class yet. So I know office hours are a little weird because you have some reading that you have to get to, but please, if there are things that we're going to get to in class, let's save it until we get to class, right? So there's a lot of stuff that you have to do for reading that we won't actually cover until we get into class time. So fight the urge to kind of have to understand everything, because all the really important stuff we'll get together during class. And so we haven't covered any of that CSS stuff yet, but we'll get there in class. Block level and inline is just do they take up space or not, right? So something is block level, it doesn't want stuff sitting next to it. It's going to take up space. It's going to elbow things down to the next line. Inline doesn't take up space. It's happy to sit next to other stuff. That's it. That's all you need to know. Block level is going to push stuff, muscle stuff away. Inline's happy to sit inline. Does it smell like 98 again? Record number of IPOs, high valuation, startups popping up. Are we in another tech industry bubble? If so, what's driving it? I have no idea. I was what? I was a little kid in 98, so not something I actually went through. I think all this is just scare tactics to like get you to click on somebody's YouTube video. Who cares? Software engineers not going anywhere. We're still going to need engineers even if we're in a bubble. Every company's a tech company now. Just doesn't matter if startups are on the rise. It's just most of you won't join like these big startups. You're going to join companies that need to build web applications. And so yeah, I worry about the now. I worry about getting a great job. I worry about like making sure that folks have the skills they need to command what's in demand right now. In 5 years, it could be all vastly different. In 5 years, this could be all completely different. And it's just not worth our energy to try and guess or troubleshoot that. And if that causes you some pain, then I think it's time to find a different career path, right? Like you either want to go down this path or you don't. And I think a lot of folks like talk themselves out of careers, and they just don't ever do anything, right? They try to find excuses that would stop them from learning and locking down a high paying, happy career. And it's something that I guess I kind of get, but I wish folks didn't, right? I wish folks would just give themselves the benefit of the doubt. They give themselves the belief that they can actually do this, get a great job, and then worry about all that other crap, right? It's just something I see time and time again. A lot of students that I think could be phenomenal engineers, they talk themselves out of studying, they talk themselves out of locking down a job, and then I talk to them 2 years later and they still haven't done anything. They haven't gotten a better job than what they had. They haven't moved on to a different career. When if they had just stopped and spent 3 to 6 months doing this, they would have been for the past 2 years in a wonderful position, able to provide for themselves and their family. But they talked themselves out of doing it for some reason. And then when I talk to them 2 years later, they haven't done anything. So just don't do that to yourself. I think it's something really important to keep in mind. Even if the end of 6 months, right? Even at the end of 6 months, you just have a new skill. That's so much better than something else, you know? I don't know. Something I worry about a lot for a lot of my students. Yeah, like even if you just walk away, like even if after these like 30 weeks, you just walked away with the ability to build web applications, like that makes you an asset at any company. Think about any I don't care what you do. You could be working in HR, you could be working in construction, but if you know how to build web applications, when problems come up on the job, you'll be able to like solve them, right? And so who cares if you don't get a job? Like it, like I don't know. It's just something I see people stop themselves, and it's like, even if you just had these skills, it makes you way more valuable than if you didn't have the skills. Like even if you didn't wind up getting a job in the field, like it just makes you way better. And so better yourself, right? Do things that enable you to better your life and your situation, you know? I got demoralized by talking with some people that had done full CS degrees and started to question whether being self-taught developer was realistic. It is. I mean, there are literally thousands of people you can read about their experiences online. There are literally thousands of people that you can find online that have been self-taught and got jobs. You can go to our celebrations channel and see a bunch of them that were self-taught and got jobs, right? Like every developer is self-taught, right? There's like you learn some stuff in school, or you learn some stuff in a boot camp, but everything else you got to learn on your own to do the things you want to do at your job, right? And so I think when you are approaching learning to code, there's so many things that are going to stop you from wanting to be successful. There's so many things that are going to tell you that like this isn't what you should do. Who cares? Who cares? If you're already not happy, if you're already not making the kind of money that you want to make, why would you let why wouldn't you take the chance? Right? Like, why wouldn't you at least take a chance to see if take a month, see if in a month you know more than you did a month ago, right? In a month, see if you can build stuff, bring stuff into existence, right? Why would you like let somebody else dictate your life, right? Like, take a month, see if it changes anything, see if it makes sense to you. If the end of the month you don't feel like things are going well, okay, then maybe switch it up. But I think so many of you at the end of a month are gonna be able to do things that you didn't even think were possible, right? So many of you will at the end of like our first month together, we'll be building real websites, right? Like stuff that you just never knew that you could possibly do. So give yourself a month at least, right? And then make decisions. But some people are going to tell you that you can't do it. Some people are going to say that like, oh, because I wasn't able to do it, you can't do it. No, they have no idea what they're talking about, right? Like there are literally thousands of people you can read about their experiences online. And so you don't have to take my word for it. Please don't take my word for it. Don't trust anybody out here. Everybody's trying to get you to do weird stuff in this space. So don't even listen to me. I think if you listen to me, then you'll listen to other folks. So don't even listen to me. Search it out. Go on our celebration channel, read all the people that got jobs. You go on YouTube, read all the stories of folks that were self-taught and got jobs, right? Like the idea here is that it is possible. Thousands of people are doing it. I've personally seen thousands of people learn to code. I've taught hundreds of folks to get jobs, right? Like I've seen it. There's nothing I can maybe do that I could convince you with, but I everything's out there. You can do it. Like you can. And give yourself some time, right? At least try. I think so many people look for an excuse not to try. At least try, right? And if at the end of a month or two it's not working out for you, all right, then go back to whatever else you were doing. But don't let somebody ever talk you out of at least trying something, right? That's what gets me. Some people get talked out of trying. They get talked out of trying to change their material condition. Don't let anybody ever talk you out of something. Don't even let me talk you out of something. I tell people don't go into cybersecurity. Don't do all this other stuff. I think the fastest job right now is full stack web development. But if your interests lie in those areas, don't listen to me. Like at least try, right? Fonzie, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. All right. Sometimes I just get the tunes in my head. Next question. Ravenclaw mug? No. Hufflepuff mug. Hufflepuff, best house. All right. When to use divs? No div soup, but section soup now. It's not that you can't use divs. It's just divs kind of lost their semantic meaning. So there are some times where you might use them, but often there are better semantic choices to be had. Sections will probably be your main containing element. So you will probably have lots of sections. Recommendations for stuff you think people should learn on the side if they have more free time, but you don't include in this program. No. Go deep, not wide. So I don't think there's any extra stuff I would add to this program other than committing your time to the program, especially early on. In 3-5 months from now, you want to start adding extra things? Sure. Knock your socks off. We had lots of students that did more stuff with React, or they picked up something that they were interested in, like Vue, or they picked up something like Tailwind, something that they were interested in. That's fine. But right now, don't. Go deep, not wide. if you're getting through all the reading, if you're getting through all the homework, right? Help other people. Help other people understand the reading, help other people understand the homework, because I guarantee you helping other people understand will reinforce the concepts in your brain in ways that you never thought possible, and you'll never forget that stuff. So I wouldn't recommend anything extra until we're way deeper in program. Once we're 4 or 5 months in the program, if there are other things that interest you that you think might help you be more around it, you can. But especially early on, it's just a recipe to burn out. So many people try to add extra stuff. They try to do 2 programs at once, and a month in, they're behind and they give up. And they give up because they burnt out. So don't burn out. What resources do you recommend for learning Linux? I discovered Windows subsystem for Linux. I went to tinker with Ubuntu. Thank you so much. I don't think I have any resources for learning Linux other than just like using it. I know it sounds weird, but just like use it. And when you don't understand how to do something, Google it. I think that's how most people figure it out. I don't know of any like courses or stuff that you can do. I'm sure there's plenty out there. But maybe like watch a YouTube video on like Ubuntu, and that's pretty much about it. Just start using it. Once you start using it day to day, you'll probably get better at it. And just Google when you figure out something you don't know. Yeah. I use Ubuntu. I've used it in the past professionally, full time, and so I think I just got more and more comfortable with it the more I used it. But yeah, look up the basics on YouTube. Like you watch like a basic tutorial, a basic how to use GNU Linux, and then yeah, start there. Once again, you don't need to use Linux if you don't want to. Whatever makes your life easier. Which compiled backend language would you suggest? Go, Rust, or Swift? Rust. But all languages are just different tools, right? It's all just different tools. What do you feel like are the best tools for the job? And so Go might be the best tool for a certain job. Rust might be the best tool for a different job. And so I don't think any language is necessarily better than another. They're just different tools for different jobs. The labs for the Tuesday's homework were just HTML. Most of you probably already did the BBC before, and then it's just the TechCrunch and Khan Academy that are doing HTML. Dab said JavaScript is the right tool for every job. Yes. Favorite foods that you have to let go / can't eat all the time. So I'm vegan, and my favorite food of all time is blue crabs. And so I've had to let go of blue crabs. I've had to let go of Domino's, of course. So a lot of stuff that is like my favorite I've had to let go. But my favorite food right now is just like vegan pho. I eat that way too much. Maybe I should let that go. No, we already talked about this. You're not resubmitting the BBC. I wouldn't make you resubmit stuff. Yeah, if you already submitted it, you're good. Cool. Do we wrap elements like nav, header, footer, and section tags as well? Or does the nature of those tags replace the need for a section? Header and footer are containing elements. They wouldn't need a section. They're already containing elements. Nav might be in a section. That might be a little bit, yeah, they could be in a section because nav's not necessarily a containing element. But yeah, so header and footer are already containing elements. They wouldn't need a section. Nav, it kind of depends. Yeah, they're containing elements themselves. You've mentioned that the highest starting salary if someone got from the last cohort was 220k. Question: how the hell? Well, that'll be a question for them. We're gonna hopefully bring them for a T-spill session as we get further into the cohort. Last cohort, on Fridays, we used to have these T-spills where we would bring folks in and they would share all the nitty gritty details about how they got the job, what the interviews were like, and share salaries and all that stuff. We're gonna do that again. And hopefully this person comes back for one of those sessions. So we'll do that once we get a little bit further along in the cohort. But yeah, so I think a lot of people that had great salaries, they'll come and share how they did it. And they were not a developer before joining the program, which is pretty cool. Yeah, this is their first job. That's wild. For TechCrunch and Khan Academy, do you want us to do the whole page, including sponsors, bottom nav bar? Nah, I just want you to do above the fold. Above the fold. So whatever you see when you come to that main page, like when you don't have to scroll, anything that you can see before you scroll. If the 100 devs Minecraft server or CSGO server will ramp back up, would you schedule a day to play with us? Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I don't think I'm going to do Minecraft again because you have to pay for Minecraft. But I might do CSGO since it's a free game. So I think whatever game we do again for a server will be a free game because I want everyone to be able to participate. I think that was a problem last time. There was like a way to get like a free trial, but then if people wanted to keep playing, they had to do some nefarious stuff to keep it going. So I think we'll probably create a server for a free game and then anyone can join it if they want. Yeah, I think it'd be fun to have like a CSGO server. Technic said, I've been adding healthy habits, making sure to drink enough water, stretch, maintaining a normal sleep schedule. Hey, congrats. That's huge. That's the goal. Congrats. Is it possible to be a gangster and a software engineer at the same time? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. How do you decide what size things should be? Is this mostly trial and error? Example, font size needs to be a lot of guessing. Same with images. So when you're working with a designer, the designer will typically give you a lot of that stuff. Yeah. So when you're working with a designer, you'll get a lot of that stuff just sent to you, like fonts, font sizes. Yeah. So when you work with a designer, you'll get all that stuff. When you're kind of just doing on your own, yeah, it's a lot of guesswork. A lot of guesswork. So don't worry about too much in the beginning, but yeah, you're kind of guessing on it. And once you kind of do it, you kind of get better at it. So in the beginning, it's a lot of trial and error, but once you've done a couple sites, it kind of becomes a little bit easier. What's CSGO? CSGO is Counter-Strike Global Offensive. It is a first-person shooter that is free to play. I know that you said that we can put 100 devs on our resumes now. What exactly can we put on there at the moment? Is that stuff we've covered so far? No, we haven't covered this yet. We're going to have classes on how to build out your resume. We're going to have classes on how to build out your LinkedIn. So you can either jump ahead and watch those classes on YouTube, or you can wait until we get there. You don't need to put anything on there now. We're nowhere near the hunt. But I'm going to share resume templates with you. I'm going to share LinkedIn templates with you. And so all that stuff, when we get there, you'll be ready. What are you excited about as we head into week 3? I am excited for you to actually be able to build real websites, right? I think there's something really powerful about being able to look at a design and bring it to life. And once you're able to do that, it makes all of this really real, right? It makes it all real. Like, yes, learning some HTML, learning some CSS feels good. Like, we're doing a lot of reading, but like once you can like look at a picture and like build it, that's something that not everyone can do, right? And so that's when it starts to become real. That's when you start to have skills that people will pay you for. And that's when it kind of starts to click with people, like, holy crap, like if in like 3 to 4 weeks I can build real stuff, what does 2 months look like? What does 6 months look like? Like, where will I, if I can do that in just a few weeks, like where will I be at the end? You know? That's what I'm excited for. Are the YouTube videos the same as we're going to cover during this 30 weeks? A lot of things are going to change, but the bulk, the core will be the same. What will you use to find freelance clients? Your network. UX, UI is something that I'm interested in as well, but it's totally different skill set. Yeah, it's a completely different skill set. My wife is blown away by the things I'm able to do this far. Imagine 6 months. Exactly. How do we use the mind palace technique in relation to coding? So for those that don't know what a mind palace technique is, mind palace technique is when you visualize like rooms in like a house. Think about like where you've lived for the longest amount of time. You can probably imagine yourself like stepping through the door, stepping through like a room, going to the bathroom. And so mind palace, you put like the different stuff that you want to remember into those different rooms. I don't think I actually ever used it for coding. I use mind palace a lot for presentations. So whenever I have a presentation, I use mind palace. But I don't think I actually use that day to day for like memorizing code. So it's not something that I use. Yeah. So like sometimes when I'm planning out lecture, I'll use mind palace to plan out my lecture. If I'm gonna give a talk, I'll use mind palace for my talk. But yeah. But I don't think I use that on a day-to-day for my learning. Really great for memorization though. Like if you have to give a talk or presentation, yeah. I have a bachelor's in IT and never thought I was qualified for software development jobs. Is it considered a related field? I mean, yeah, I guess it's considered a related field, but nobody hired you based off of your degree. They hire you based off if you're able to code or not, and do you have a portfolio that proves that you can code or not. So if you have great projects and you know how to code, then yeah, I would go for software development jobs. Absolutely. All right, keep it going. Can we apply for UX UI positions after 100 devs? UX is a completely different skill set. And UI, like if you're talking about like the design of UI, is a completely different skill set as well. So no, probably not. Is there some overlap? Yes, but they're completely different skill sets and completely different jobs. Yeah. You might be like a front end developer that just specializes in developing UI. However, like that's something you maybe could do. But if you're talking about like the designing of how folks move through applications and the design of the things that they interact with, that's a completely different skill set. So no. Yeah. What about cloud practitioner? It's a completely different job and skill set, and that's something that we would cover here. What are your thoughts on a 4-day hour work week? Oh yeah, sign me up. I would love a 4-day work week. I think during the week, I think most people are kind of not they're not productive. I think there's a lot of people that are not productive throughout the week or and I don't mean that like in a bad way. It's just that like when you have 5 days and 8+ hours a day, I think there are a lot of people that kind of like, yeah, you like come in, like you have your breakfast, you might code for a little bit, then you go to meetings. So like, so nobody's ever like really like sitting there grinding every day. And so I think like a 4-day work week could maybe bring some focus where like you have to like get work done. You have to focus during those times because you won't have that extra day to like string it out a little bit. And so I'd be a big fan of I think a 4-day work week would help me a lot. I think it would actually help me focus more and get more done. And I think planning out the sprints could be a little interesting at first, like how you're going to get stuff done in just 4 days. Maybe it was 4-day work week, but 2-week sprints. I think that'd be ideal. So like you have 2 weeks to get stuff done with 4-day work weeks. Yeah, I think that'd be my ideal. Yeah. But I think every company is different. Each company finds what works well for them and their employees. So I think it'd be nice. I would like to try it. But I don't think there's one better than the other. I think each team's different. I also think it might be helpful, like if you're doing longer days. I actually think longer days in hey, the Beast, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. I appreciate that. Hope you're doing well. I think having like longer days actually could be helpful. Like if you did like 4 12-hour days and you had like a little bit longer to like focus, I don't know. I'd rather people have like their own personal lives. So scratch that. I'd be in favor of a 4-day work week. I think it could help me focus more. Yeah. I work 4x10 and love it. I think that'd be cool. I'm in favor of a 4-day work week with core hours. Oh, so like you have like some core hours where you have to be working. I like that idea too. Sauce on the side. Hey, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. I appreciate that. But a bunch of hydrations come through. Thank you for the hydrations. Cheer to y'all. Sauce on the side and Day of the Beast. Hey, thank you so much for the gifted subs. Do most developers work more than 40 hours per week? It's really dependent on the company. Yeah, exactly. And the culture at that company. What does your day-to-day look like at your job? My day typically starts a little before 7. So every day I'm teaching starting at 7 in the morning. So sometimes I'm getting stuff before that. And I typically teach until like 6 hours. Like I'm like that. I guess that'd be my core hours. And then I do a lot of one-on-ones and time with folks and then 100 devs. Sleep is important. How much sleep is good? Everybody's different on their sleep, but like shooting for 8 hours is probably a good place to start. And some people need less, some people need more. I typically work like 7 to 7. I typically work like 12-hour days. Oh no. Hold on. There we go. Switch to the other camera. The other camera overheated. I don't think my aircon is on right now, so the other camera overheated, so I just switched to the other camera. I actually don't know if this camera works well. This is the first time we've had to switch to the other camera. Like ghosting out of my beard. Got a warmer tone to it. Yeah, I haven't optimized this one, so this is just like, uh-oh, the other one overheated. We can switch to this one. I have a Sony RX100, which is the main camera I use. And then I have a Panasonic GH4, which is my backup camera. And we're at the top of the hour. I think it's a good time to take a break. I can maybe turn my aircon back on. Let's see. Alrighty, folks. If you're new around here, at the top of the hour, we like to take a break. We like to be healthy. We like to, if you're able to get up and stretch, move around a little bit, and take our 5 minutes. I'm going to pull the 5 minutes up here. Alrighty. Let's go ahead. We'll probably go for another hour. Office hours are normally 3 hours. I love answering all your questions. If you got more questions, keep them coming. But yeah, we typically go for about 3 hours. All right, folks, I'm going to set the 5 minutes here. I'll be back in 5. If you're able to, get up, move around, stretch, hydrate, kiss some babies. And I'll see y'all in 5 minutes. Did Dr. Levi's hand stretches? Hey, I'm glad you did it. They really do help a lot. I'm going to share them again this week for everyone to use them. Really do change the game. Can we take time to appreciate the mods here in Discord? They've been working their butts over there. They really have. Thank you to all the mods keeping this community alive. Appreciate y'all. Leon, are touring job offers reliable? What do you mean? Like, do people in touring get job offers? Yeah, they do. But it doesn't matter what house you're in. If you put in the work, you have a fair shot at getting a job. What are your what do you think of getting a CompTIA cert worth getting? I don't think any certs are worth getting, honestly, unless you want to go into that field as a career. You can learn full stack web development for free and get a way higher paying job. Yeah. What work brings you the most joy? 100 devs, resilient coders, or personal client work, or all of it? I think I'm blessed to do stuff that I want to do in life. And so for me, I get joy out of all of it, or else I wouldn't do it. I think one of the best days of my year when folks get jobs and they send me that message saying that they got the job. And so I'm blessed that my career is helping folks get into good paying jobs. What is a good word per minute to shoot for with practice? I think 60 is like the goal for most folks. All right, folks, come on back. We got another hour to kind of get through these questions here, and happy you're all here. First camera's down, but I think the second camera will hold up just fine. It's gonna be a little weird. I might be looking the wrong way. I might be ghosting a little bit, but glad y'all are here. Thank you for giving me some of your Sunday. Thank you for hanging out. I gotta look a slightly different way. There you go. There you are. I know that learning to code is hard, and I know giving up time away from your friends and family is hard. So my biggest respect to all the folks that give up their Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays to be here. Is math a must? Absolutely not. Will the daily code challenges be available for all houses to work on? Yeah, of course. I've heard it's best to show off a few big projects instead of several smaller projects. When I learn a new tech, do I add my big projects or make a new one? If you mean in terms of a job, like one big project is enough, and showing that you've built something from the beginning to the end is what they really want to see. Like, can you take something and bring it to life? And so we do our 100 hours project here. The 100 hours project is the one thing that is most likely to get you a job. So yes, you want to make sure that you have a big project that's not from a tutorial, that's not from a simple or like silly game. It's something that has meaning to you and ties in line with your story as to why you're applying to their company. So yeah, big projects instead of smaller ones. And once you have big projects in your portfolio, you don't have to do like big projects for each language that you learn. It can be helpful to do it, but it's not really going to help you jobs wise. A lot of companies don't even really care if you've used the language that they used before. They just want to know that you can code, and they expect you to be able to learn that stuff. So a lot of my students get jobs in Python. A lot of my students get jobs in PHP, even though their portfolio only has, and they've only ever coded in JavaScript. It's just assumed that once you know one language, you can pick up another. Yeah. Things like calculators, tic-tac-toe, small games, you really don't want them in your portfolio. It smells like too much like a boot camper. Yeah. You want real projects with real meaning. In HTML, how do we know when we should use character entities, example at amp, and when it's okay to type regular characters? Just type regular characters. If you run into problems where it's not rendering correctly in a browser, then you might want to switch. But for now, it just doesn't matter. Just type out your code. What are your thoughts on JavaScript hate? It usually ranks pretty high in most hated language rankings. I want to see whether you think it's warranted. I think all that stuff is just like pure cap. I think like it's all clickbait. It's just to like get people to click on stuff. Like it's just weird. JavaScript does things their own way. They do things they're like it's just simple. It's clean. It's easy to understand. Like some people might not like it because it doesn't have certain features that other languages have, but I think the thing about developers is they all have strong opinions, right? And so whenever you have strong opinions, they're gonna have strong opinions about different stuff that they have to use as tools. And so I think there are people that probably do hate JavaScript, but I think it's kind of nonsense to say you hate a language or like, I don't know, hate different tools. They're just tools in a tool belt. Sometimes JavaScript has a use and sometimes it doesn't. I wouldn't hate a hammer. I wouldn't hate a screwdriver. I wouldn't hate a slide rule. Like it just doesn't make sense to me to hate a tool. You might hate using the tool, I guess, but like hating a tool is just weird. You're going to use it at different times for different things. No. Hey, indifferent. Thank you for the 15 months. That's wild. Shout out to Torque Wrenches. Me and my homies hate crescent wrenches. You skipped the question about, I mean, I skip questions. This is chill office hours. If I don't want to answer the question, I'm not going to answer it. I'll probably just skip it. This is not me committing to answering every question you put in here. Sometimes you ask wild questions and I ain't going to answer them. I'm going to skip them. This is not a binding contract. What are your thoughts on Raspberry Pi? I love Raspberry Pis. I use them all the time. I actually have a post on my blog about using Raspberry Pis to build a computer lab in Tanzania and Kenya. Would I be focusing on Raspberry Pis right now? Probably not. I'd be going deep, not wide. I mean, sorry, I'd be going wide, not deep. What's best practice for CSS class naming? I'm using camel case, but Shayhal uses hyphens. Is there a best practice or is it more of a style preference? It's a preference, and often it's going to come down to a team preference. I use camel case everywhere because that's what the teams I work on use most of the time, and I think it's also my personal preference. So I use camel case, but it's a preference, and often a lot of this will come down to team preferences because teams want their code base to remain consistent. So when you join a lot of teams, you're going to get a style guide. It's going to dictate what type of casing you use. We haven't gotten to camel casing yet or anything like that in class. We'll get to that this week because when we start doing our classes and IDs, I do all my classes and IDs in camel case. All camel casing is that the first word is lowercase and then every other word is capitalized after that. For those that are catching up, what is your recommended priority on homework assignments that are not due yet or the ones that are past due? Definitely do the ones that are past due. Do everything you can to get up to being live, but you definitely want to go through the stuff that you're missing. So definitely follow along with the stuff that you're missing. And eventually we'll do a front end review class. So if you're joining us before we get to the front end review, you should start at the beginning and catch up. If you're joining us at the front end review, that's where you'll join us. But for now, you're better off catching up, doing everything in order. And then as you get caught up, you can join us live and you can join the catch up crew if you would like. What kind of salary should I expect when I eventually land that first web dev job remote and living out of the USA? There's no kind of expectation. It is solely dependent on where you apply and how you apply. I think 70K is like a really good mark to shoot for if you're remote and living outside of the US. I think that's like a really good goal. I think there's like a think it's either 70 or 75K is like where more money doesn't affect your condition. And so I think that 70K mark is where a lot of folks that are fully remote, fully outside the USA could shoot for. Some folks will make way more than that. Some folks will make less, you know? Yeah, it really depends on where you wind up applying, what companies you wind up applying to. I've seen it all over the board. I've seen way less than, I've seen way more than that. I'm also not here to sell like a high salary dream. Like if you get a high salary, that's great. If you get a 6-figure salary, that's great. But like, I don't want that to be the expectation. I want you to find a great salary at a company that has a good culture, where you're happy to show up for work every day. Like having a happy, healthy, stable career where you keep learning and you keep making decent money is like where I want you to be. I don't want to sell a dream of a 6-figure career remote and outside the US. Like that's just not the reality of it. The reality of it is that you'll probably find a great company that pays well and is a great place to work, but putting a money number to it is not something that I feel comfortable doing. How do I help my partner to stay motivated throughout the course? I offer to rubber cats against them, but I would like more suggestions. If you're trying to help your partner through the course, I think helping them with time, right? Helping them with time is a big thing. It's a lot to give up 6 hours during the week and then maybe another 3 hours on the weekend. And often when you're going through the course, that can make you feel pretty guilty. Like you might feel guilty, like not giving that time to your partner or giving that time to your kids. And so I think the one thing you can do is like make sure that they know that they're in your corner, and that the time that they're putting in is for the whole family. It's for everyone. It's not just for them. And so I think making sure that they feel comfortable with that time investment and that you support them in that time investment is one of the biggest things you can do as a partner. Yeah. And then maybe letting them slide on a few things here or there in terms of like cooking or something like that on Tuesdays and Thursdays could be helpful. Yeah. I see a lot of people saying that the guilt is real. It is. Yeah. Can we please use office hours for questions regarding learning? Leon has answered these questions multiple times. That's why you got to get in here and upvote these questions. I answered the upvoted questions. I actually don't like answering questions about learning during office hours. Like I don't like jumping into code as much. It's chill, right? If they come up, I answer them, but I think this is more like life, learning to code, getting a job, right? I think that's what office hours is more of. If you want help with code, you can jump on Discord and get that, right? So if you need somebody to look at your code in terms of you have a question or something, jump on Discord to get that. But yeah, I'm not in control here. I'm just, whatever gets upvoted is what I answer. So this is the will of the people right here. I do answer a lot that are in chat though, so. Will you ever share resources on how to increase our business acumen, entrepreneurial skills to be more marketable coders? I'd love to start my own company one day like you did. Just start reading more. That's all I did. I read everything there was to be an entrepreneur out there. All of Paul Graham stuff, tons of books. The more you read and then you start doing, you're going to make a bazillion mistakes, but some of them will be right. Will you be using any AWS or Azure? We'll be using a little bit of Azure. Maybe a little bit of AWS, but it's not something that we really focus on. Do you ever find that it's hard to disengage when you're trying to solve a problem? Hell yeah. It's actually a big problem for me. Yeah, like knowing when to like stop and call it a day is hard for me sometimes. Something I struggle with. Yeah. Barbara Oakley talked about that. Yep. How was your life as a digital nomad? What kind of work did you do? What was your favorite place? It was it was fucking awesome. It was amazing. We kind of just did Airbnbs, me and my wife, for like a month or two at different places. And I was running my company at the time, so we went fully remote. We were like in person for 3 years and then like remote for 2 years. And so I was just working on my company. And so I was just running a business day to day. And yeah. And so it was a lot of fun. I would really want to do it again someday. I really want to get like an RV and just travel around, like a camper van and travel around. But yeah. What was your favorite place? Rome. I love Rome. All of Italy, actually. But I'm a weirdo for Rome. There's like having all that history, food culture, amazing people, like all that in one spot was pretty amazing. Yeah. Colosseum was dope. We paid for like the tour that takes you out onto like the actual like wooden floor. That was pretty cool. But yeah, I think it's really if you ever had the chance to do it, highly recommend it. Some of the best years of my life. Got to see a lot of really amazing, wonderful places. And the thing I like about travel is I love slow travel. I hate like going somewhere just for like a couple days. That's like no fun to me at all. I love going to a place and spending at least a month there, like finding your favorite places, meeting people, like making friends, and yeah. I wasn't vegan back then. I was vegetarian back then, though. Were they cool with black people? I think for the most part, I was pretty cool. Most folks thought I was Muslim, which was like okay, but I didn't really get any kind of like. I've definitely had worse times in places in the States than I did in anywhere like traveling in Italy. So I definitely have way worse experiences here in the US stateside than I did like internationally. So yeah, I think they're pretty cool. Traveled around a bunch and we're in a bunch of different weird places and never really had too much trouble. As a black person, I love Rome. Yeah, no, I felt fine there. Yeah. Do related jobs like QA developer, tech analyst have similar growth to software development? No, they do not. They're great jobs. They can be great first jobs for a lot of folks. But the specifically the salary growth that a software engineer has is way different than the salary growth of a QA developer. That means you can't keep getting great jobs that pay well. It's just that growth is a little bit more as a software engineer. Do you drink coffee? Yes, but way less than I drink tea. I tend to drink tea every day. Coffee is kind of sparingly. Can we name your rubber ducky? This one actually doesn't have a name. Maybe we can. That'd be cool. It might have had a name at one point. I don't remember what it is though. Do you meditate? Yeah, I do. Pretty much every day. Poll for a duck name. Maybe we'll do that for channel points. First person to a certain number of channel points can name the duck. Can I still join house touring if I just join 100 devs? Yes, the application is still open. I have 4 classes to catch up with. Yep, just apply, shoot your shot. Do junior developer positions expect lots of experience, or they assume there will be teaching on the job? Every software engineering position requires you to learn something on the job. That's why I hate the word junior. Junior is simply a word people use to pay you less. Every single company you join will do things in a different way that you're gonna have to learn on the job. They will have a different way that they do the same languages, same tools, same technologies, you will have to learn on the job. They will all do things in their own way. So every company expects that you do some learning on the job. Any good company for an entry level role knows that you're going to be you're not really going to be super useful until like 3 months in. Any company expects you to be super useful day one, they've hired wrong. Yeah. Now there are some companies that only hire senior engineers, so they know what they're getting into. Anybody that has entry level positions knows that they're taking on a developer that they're going to train in their way, and that has a lot of benefit. To have someone that doesn't have so many like preconceptions but can code well, and you can train them up in the way you do things, is actually a huge benefit. The first reading, it mentioned the box model is one of the most challenging things to grasp. Need to understand more of it. Could you show or explain more on this? We haven't gotten there yet. We're gonna have a whole class on it. So I actually think on Tuesday we're gonna do all the box model stuff. So yeah, we'll go over that in class. When freelancing, is it better to use your name or come up with a company name to use? I think that's personal choice. Most of my freelancing is just under my name. I do have a freelancing entity that I use as well, but I think a lot of people, like, when you're networking just with your name, and then like when it comes time for the contract, you might use a company that they're actually contracting with. But I wouldn't like brand myself not as my name. I would use my name on all my socials and stuff like that. And then once people once they do want to freelance with me, or they want to be my client, then they're interacting with my actual business. That's up to you. And we're going to talk more about how to start your freelancing and answer a lot of those questions. Would building a restaurant website to be a good project to apply with? No. You want a full stack web application. Do we need to write our own contracts? I'm going to be giving you a lot of contract samples. So no, you don't have to build your own contracts. I'll be giving you templates for everything. Is a mental health application a red flag for employers? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I don't snitch on myself when I apply to jobs. I would never snitch on myself. Once I got the job, I got the offer, then I'll tell you a bit more, but I'm not snitching on anything. Anything that might stop me from getting a job, you won't know until I'm there for 6 months. Do you use Python? I do use Python like during my normal life, but this cohort is all JavaScript. That's the fastest to a job. What's the difference between a website and a full stack web application? A website is just typically like the static stuff that you see, right? HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Full stack web application means you have like user logins. You're doing stuff that might be stored to a database. You have things that they can interact with, right? Can you talk more about negotiating a bonus for work from home equipment? Yeah, it's just something that you negotiate for. Once you get an offer, you can negotiate everything. And so right now, the big thing that folks are negotiating are work from home bonuses. So, hey, I won't be in the office, which means you're saving a lot of money on needing to buy snacks, on needing to buy monitors, saving a lot of money on all the stuff that would need to take all the overhead to like run the office. But since I'm working from home, I need a comfortable work environment. I need to make sure that I have my screens, my keyboards, and all this stuff that I would normally get at the office, I don't have at my house. So is there anything you can do to increase like a work from home bonus or a starting bonus? And that's one thing that we negotiate for a lot right now. So a lot of my students right now, that's the biggest thing they're negotiating for, is a work from home bonus. So once you get an offer, you can negotiate for anything. And it becomes way easier when you have multiple offers. Yeah. I've seen wild stuff like Uber Eats and stuff like that. Yep. I do have some friends that have Drizzly benefits, which means they can get alcohol delivered whenever they want it, which I thought was pretty cool. That's a pretty cool bonus that the company actually pays for you to get alcohol. No. All right. I've examined HTML code of several websites, and all of them have many invisible divs which are nested like 10 levels. Is it a good practice? Looks confusing. A lot of big websites are not hard coding HTML. They are using a CMS, or a content management system. And that content management system outputs the HTML that you see. So the HTML that comes out of those systems are typically horrendous, and you would never want to mimic that code. This is really popular on like news websites. So think of like a news website, like think of like TechCrunch or CNN. They're putting up 10, 20, 30 articles a day, sometimes for bigger sites like an hour, right? So they can't have somebody like recoding HTML all day long. So what they do is they use some sort of tool or system where the editors and the writers can enter in their articles, and then those articles get posted to the website as HTML. So those are called content management systems. A big one that a lot of people have heard of is WordPress. So you can have folks that don't know how to code, that can write articles that show up on the website. The code that comes out of CMSs is often really bad. So don't mimic your code quality on the code quality of sites that are most likely using some like automated system. It's just not going to be the same. Yeah. Welcome, Justice. Do you have any experience with the difference between US and the European market for web dev jobs? Europe pays way less money. That's the big thing. In Europe, it's just way less money, but maybe better benefits. Would making a CMS be a good 100 hours project? Not really. You want a 100 hours project to be something to you, something personal. If you worked for like a newspaper in the past, then maybe a CMS would be a good idea. Can you make bots with JS? You can. Are we going to use a CMS? Nah, we won't touch on CMSs here. Some of you might use a CMS when it comes to freelancing, but that's kind of your personal choice. Cool. In which week will we start applying for jobs? About halfway through the program is when we'll start thinking about it. Around week 20 is probably when we'll really start taking the application process seriously. If the NASDAQ crashes bigly, what do you think will happen to the hot job market for software developers? No idea, no clue. I don't live my life on if, whens, or buts. These kids got guts, so we're gonna go out and do our best with what we have right now. Every company is a tech company now, so I think a crash would be very different this time around than before. I think maybe the salaries will decrease, but the jobs maybe not so much. But like I said, there's always somebody that's going to use that as an excuse to not get started. If it crashes, you're way better off with marketable skills than you are without marketable skills, right? Every company that you would join, you'll now have a leg up on anybody else that does not have coding skills. So if there was a crash that changed the job market, who cares? You'll at least have skills that other folks don't that'll help you get a job anyway. How do you stay consistent, Mr. Leon? Please don't call me Mr. A lot of people call me Sir, Mr. Please don't do that. You don't need to do that. I'm Leon. We're all friends here. How do I stay consistent? A lot of really hard fucking work. I put in a lot of fucking work to get where I'm at. For those that have been around a while, Daddy Leon, that's okay. You can say that. That one's okay. But sir or mister, no thank you. Um, less formal, exactly. How do you stay consistent? I put a lot of hard work. So I'm bipolar, and for me, my bipolar disorder does a lot of really weird stuff to my brain. It was really hard for me to get good sleep. It was really hard for me to be consistent. And so the number one thing I did was find a good psychiatrist, find a good psychologist that helped me get on the right medications and on the right treatment plan. Because without my medication, I am dead to the world. If I do not have the right medication, I am a completely different human. And so for me, consistency was about having like the right mental health support. Once I had that, it was building up the amount of time I could focus. I think most people really overestimate the amount of time they can focus. We go in with like big eyes and wanting to be great at it, but the problem most people have is they don't know how to focus. And so having a really good Pomodoro schedule that I really held myself to, and I slowly upped the amount of time that I was putting into those focus periods over a larger period of time was really helpful. So like good mental health support and a good investment in increasing the amount of time that I could focus over time. Can we see sample 100 hours project and what level is expected from us? Not yet. We're nowhere near that. We're just nowhere near the 100 hours project yet. It's not something you should like wear yourself on. As we get closer to like being full stack, we're not even full stack web developers yet, right? Like we only know HTML and a little bit of CSS. Once we're building in Node and we're getting closer to it, we'll share a bunch of projects, and hopefully we'll have some alumni that can like talk you through their projects. Yeah. We're nowhere near that stuff yet. Don't burn out. Don't stress yourself with it. Hey Leon, do you recommend us putting this apprenticeship in LinkedIn? Yeah, most of you will put 100 devs on your LinkedIn, and it won't be an apprenticeship. You'll put software engineer at 100 devs. The way that we frame 100 devs is that it's an agency with a training program. So you are all in the training program that is a part of the agency. And yeah, that's what's helped most people last cohort. What if a recruiter contacts us? Then great, you're gonna have lots of projects to show them that you completed during your times at 100 devs, and all of you will have client projects, right? And so you will have work that you've done at the agency. Is it too late to start this program right now? Trader Joe, no, it's not. Welcome. You do exclamation point 100 devs. Everything you need to know about the program. How often should we be going through our Anki decks? It's up to you. Some people do multiple sessions a day. Some people just do one big session a day. Yeah, up to you. What is your preference for laying out your CSS grid? And just do what works. I don't know if I have a certain preference for it. I showed you what I did kind of with like my site, where I kind of box everything off, and then how those boxes are laid out is how I set up my positioning. Yeah. Hope you're having an awesome weekend, Leon. Just wondering if you have any suggestions on what to work on if we completed the weekly assignments. If you've done all the assignments, you've done all the reading, you've done all of everything that I've asked you to do, relax. Relax a little bit. Get your active recall in. Get your spaced repetition in. And if you still have a little bit more time, help folks on Discord. When you help someone else, you are cementing those ideas in your brain for life. And so, yeah, if you've gotten through everything, you've gotten through all the reading, and you did it like at a fair pace, like not you just sped read through it. Like, I think it's actually really hard to get through all the material each week. So if you did manage to do it, you're a beast. give yourself a little bit of a break and then help people on Discord, because it'll just make sure those things are just stuck in your brain forever. Any non-coding book recommendations? I love fantasy, particularly high fantasy. Mistborn trilogy is great. Anything by Brandon Sanderson is great. Wheel of Time series, also great series. Folks, got some more questions here. Let's see. Do we practice writing HTML and CSS without consistently looking at the end result, or does it not matter? It doesn't really matter. When I'm working with a new design, I'm constantly looking at that design because I need to make sure I'm doing it right. And so, yeah, looking at your source for design is totally something that you would do normally. And so, yeah, looking back and forth is fine. And I don't think there's any problem with that. Did you ever play any text-based MUDs? I still play text-based MUDs. I love MUDs. Leon, what programming language should I use to create, say, let's just say a video game? Depends on what type of video game you want to make. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people use like C#, Unity, right? Tons of really great, lots of really great like lots of really great like game developers here on Twitch, specifically in our category. Lana Lux is the person we followed. We rated not too long last week. They're a great developer, really good at building games, and so you could definitely follow some people on Twitch that are building games from scratch if that's something you're interested in. But yeah, I think there are like specific like platforms or tools to help build games. If you wanted to stick with like JavaScript, Phaser is a really cool framework for building games. Phaser JS is a really good framework. You know. Don't worry so much about your LinkedIn right now. We'll eventually get stuff on your LinkedIn. Like you don't need to stress a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff we're going to get to as the time comes. Focus on the stuff that we're giving you in the boot camp, and we're going to make sure that your portfolios look good. Make sure your resumes look good. We're going to make sure that your LinkedIn's look good. All that stuff will be covered. And that's kind of why I really like office hours, because I know there's a lot of stuff that like stresses everyone out. A lot of stuff that you're always thinking about. And so it does really take me saying we're going to get there, right? And so don't stress about your resume, don't stress about your LinkedIn, don't stress about any of that stuff. You're just not there yet in the journey. And when we get there, you'll have templates to use, you'll have the things that are going to make you stand out. And so just don't stress too much about it. We're going to get there with time. Leon, do you write the HTML and CSS at the same time? Personally, I write out my HTML first and then my CSS. There's some people that do it at the same time. It's kind of up to you. Just gotta jam out to the music, folks. Let the vibes take you. You have any plan on building a 100 devs website and or forum? We do have the 100 devs website that should be going live pretty soon. We have one already. It's like on staging. We just got to bring it live. So that'll be coming soon. We won't do a forum because we have Discord. Yeah. What happens with forums is people just stop using them. So forums are they just die quicker. And so I vastly prefer Discord to forums. And I've built forums in the past. And the cool thing is now that with Discord, we have threads only for all the help channels. So you get all the benefits of a live active forum, but then you still have it all within Discord. So you can get like other types of communication happening. So I think with the switch to threads only and the help channels, we get all the benefits of a forum. And yeah, the 100 devs website will be coming soon. Yeah, can you go through examples of static, relative, and fixed positioning? Not really. We haven't gotten there yet in class. Static is kind of just like the default. Relative means that you're basing it on the container, and then fixed means it's just going to stay there. So when you have like, say, like a navigational element that stays at the top or the bottom, that's traditionally fixed. Relative has to do with the container that it's in, and static's kind of like the default. Nothing really more than that. What are the spicy Leon rant on the topic of your choice? So that's sometimes when I go big and I just kind of rant on a topic, you get to pick the topic that I rant on. So that's the spicy Leon rant on the topic of your choice. And then the 1v1 me, aka the Thunderdome for VIP, is that we play a game 1v1. I think the current game is Smash Brothers, and if you win it, you get VIP here on Twitch. I think I'm still set up for Smash. I'd have to check on that, but yeah. So the idea is I can switch over to Smash Brothers. We can 1v1, and if you win it, you get VIP. I'm not good at Smash. Like, don't expect much. Can you go over how to link a CSS file to an HTML file? Sure. Here you go. There's the link. You put that at the top of your, let me go to Little Leon here. I don't think my camera's gonna work on this one, so you're gonna see a black screen here. You have the link, and you just make sure that the link is pointing to the correct file. So right now you're saying go into a CSS folder and find the style.css, right? That's the idea here. Let's go ahead and create a new file real quick. Let's just create like from like scratch. I'm gonna do file. It's gonna do bob.html, and I'm just gonna go ahead and set up this HTML. There is no link to the CSS yet, and I'm just gonna put an h1 in here. H1, Bob is the best. Cool. And then I want to be able to style this Bob is the best. So I'm going to go ahead and do, let's just do a new file, and we're going to save this as bob.css. You have to save it as a CSS file. Cool. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this should be, H1 should be color red. Cool. Now, right now, this HTML file is not linked to the CSS file. So I'm going to go ahead and create my link. And I'm going to put in the href bob.css. Actually, this was not saved as a CSS file. There we go. Cool. So now my bob.html is linked to my bob.css with the link. href equals bob.css. You know that my bob.css is not in a folder right now, so I don't have to do like css/bob.css. I didn't put it in a CSS folder, so the path is just bob.css. And there we go. We can see that Bob is best is red, and so it is red, and yeah, we're good. So it linked. So it's simply putting the link tag and the appropriate href that connects it to your CSS file. And we'll see that more in the future too. Just wanted to thank you for what you do. You're welcome. Glad you're here. Glad you found us. Is it okay that I still haven't fully grasped all the CSS properties and terms, aka every single thing Shayhal's gone over? Yeah, are you kidding yourself? This is literally what? You've been 1 week on CSS, right? Literally what? One week of CSS? How, like, come on. Come on. Come on. There's no way that you would know everything in 1 week. We haven't even gotten over it in class yet. So yeah, you got to give yourself a little bit of grace. This is a hard process. Learning all these things will take time, and you can't get down on yourself for not being perfect in 1 week. I like to think of it as learning a new spoken language. If you started to learn Japanese and after 1 week you were upset that you weren't fluent in Japanese, that you couldn't fly to Japan and integrate into society fully, I would say you're a wild person. Like what are you smoking that you think after 1 week you could be fluent in Japanese? Right? It just doesn't make sense. And so how do you think you should be fluent in CSS in 1 week? Right? It's the same thing. You're learning a brand new language, right? It's hard, but it takes some time. Give yourself that time to get into it. And so yeah, the homework and stuff like that is all about a first pass. It's about to get you some exposure to things, to get your brain working on some things, but all the important stuff we'll cover in class. And so you'll get that review, you'll get to ask more questions, you'll get to go deeper on some of those topics. But yeah, don't get down on yourself just because it doesn't click right away. A lot of things won't click for weeks, months at a time. And so yeah, give yourself some grace here. You're learning a brand new language. You can't be expected to be fluent in less than a week. I'm in my 40s and I've heard some ageism in the development world. I'm looking for this to be my second act. Is that usually something to worry about? Yeah, you're always going to run into some sort of ageism, or you're going to run into some sort of people being jerks or assholes. You shouldn't let that hold you back from a career. Plenty of folks in their 40s, 50s, 60s have gotten amazing software engineering jobs. Don't let that be the thing that like stops you from a new career. Yeah, it's definitely doable to find a great job in your 40s. Does anything bad happen if we write a closing tag for a non-closing element? I asked to know if it's necessary to memorize them, or is it okay just to close everything? You might run into some weird issues in certain browsers. Yeah, you should memorize them. It's only a couple of them. It's basically inputs and images are the only ones that are self-closing, so not to know really more than that. Kind of hard not to compare myself to others when I see people going above and beyond with the homework assignments and I don't understand anything they did. Yeah, a lot of folks come in with past experience though. A lot of folks, this is not their first boot camp. A lot of folks, this isn't their first rodeo. And then some things just come easier to others because of the mental models that they already have. Some things are going to come really easy to you. Some things are going to come easy to you and some things are going to come hard to you. And it's always different per person. For some people, HTML really clicks, and for some people, it just doesn't. For some people, JavaScript really clicks, and for some people, it just doesn't. So who cares if in the moment somebody's learning something quicker, they're going to have their turn for it not to come quick just as well, you know? And then also some people have more privilege of time, right? And so folks just might be able to dedicate their whole days to this stuff. Do you have any jobs, roles that you recommend for people to look for if they need some money right now? Freelancing? Yeah. That's why we get to freelancing in week 6. Can you create an assignments channel that just lists the assignments? That's what follow along materials is for. Lots of questions about what homework is homework help and other channels. So here's the thing. A lot of people don't read. A lot of people just don't read. And in the beginning, folks are really paranoid. Folks are really freaked out about what's due, how it's due, when it's due. And so even if we did create a different channel for this, they're still not going to read it. They're still going to be paranoid. They're still going to freak out. It definitely dies down in a couple weeks. So give them a week or two. All the sillies will be worked out. Folks won't be as scared about what's due and not due. And so yeah, give them a week or two more, and then it'll die down and you'll be fine. But all the homework is in the follow along materials channel. You don't have to spam what's due. Please use the search bar. And in a week or two, those questions kind of die down because nobody's really new anymore. Yeah. But here's the thing. You all got to get better at like figuring out what's due. When you're on the job, you're going to get assigned a ticket and that's it. It's up to you to like crush it. And so you got to use this as practice. Don't rely on others to like tell you what to do, or rely on others to like break down like the stuff for you. You got to develop that intuition yourself. You got to develop that ability to digest what's due, because when you're on the job, you're just going to get a ticket and that's it. And then you have to figure out everything that's due for that ticket. And so, yeah, in the beginning, we got lots of questions. People are a little unsure of how like program is structured. But once we get through the first couple of weeks, that kind of dies down. And then you got to really push yourself to make sure that you can do it on your own. Being resourceful is key. Yeah, exactly. Is it okay to resubmit the BBC HTML page we already did last week for this upcoming Tuesday's homework? It's not due. It was just part of the assignments from the previous week, so I listed it there, but you're not resubmitting the BBC homework. Do you have any breaks planned in this cohort? We did 2 breaks last cohort. We'll see how it works out. I really go at the pace of program. So I have structured out all my lessons and what I want to cover, but I do not believe in a strict syllabus. I do not believe in a strict course schedule. If I notice folks are taking a really long time to understand CSS, we're going to do more classes on CSS. If I find that folks are having a hard time with JavaScript, we're going to do more classes on JavaScript. So there's no like plan break time. There's no like plan we have to do this, because I really do try to pay attention to the course and how folks are doing. I think that's one of the major failings of like traditional education, is that like you have to do it in 12 weeks and this is exactly what you're going to get done. No, it's not how I run any of my classrooms. If folks need more time on something, we spend more time on it. Cool. How do we display the UL elements side by side? You're going to need some sort of way of doing your positioning, whether that's floats or flex or something like that. Yeah, you're gonna need some sort of positioning to get them side by side. We'll start off with floats and then we'll be using flex. I noticed TeamCrunch, I think I mean TechCrunch, uses image-based links in place of H1s, Ps, and other elements. Like if you mean like you're looking at the TechCrunch code, don't look at that code. That's all CMS auto-generated stuff. It's not good code. Yeah, I have no idea what they're putting in there, but like the code that gets spit out of some of these CMS is just the wildest stuff I've ever seen. So yeah, I wouldn't compare the actual code there. How do we get a job with a long gap in work history? You don't have a gap in your work history. What are you talking about? You were freelancing. What do you mean gap? None of you have a gap. You were all freelancing during that time. And in fact, you got a freelancing client so they can talk to some of your past clients. So yeah, I don't know. Don't know what you mean by gap. What is this gap you speak of? You mean when you were freelancing? Okay. Don't snitch on yourself. Exactly. Yeah, you were freelancing. There's no gaps. Is there a difference between H1 href and anchor tag H1? Can we use both forms? I like my headings on the outside. That's just kind of my cup of tea. I think the H1 is the tag that has the most semantic meaning here. So I go semantic first, but it's kind of a personal preference. US rest of the world salaries. The US starting salaries as a software engineer seem far bigger than the UK and Europe. Why is that? Because UK and Europe have way more social services than the US does. And so in the US, we have to get our healthcare through our employer. We get our means of like living through our employer. And we have less like we don't have like the demand is way high, like really high in the US, so high that we have folks that come to the US on specialty visas to fill out a lot of our tech jobs, because we actually don't educate our people enough to get the jobs that are in demand in our country. So there's a lot of reasons as to that, but we have a lot of jobs and not enough people to fill those jobs. And when you do get those jobs, like there's a lot that's tied to it. So yeah, the cost of living, stuff like that is higher too. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but on general, the salaries are lower in the UK and Europe. Less demand means less price pressure, and a lot of the stuff that you need to like not die, you kind of get for free. If we decide to put 100 devs right now on our LinkedIn, what do we put it as? Well, like I said, don't worry about that stuff until we get to it in class. But if you're going to run ahead, or we have a whole class on it, go to YouTube and watch the class. In Shayhow, the CSS has periods. Why is this? So the periods are going to be for our classes later on. And so class names will have periods. So I think that's maybe what you're referring to. We kind of hinted at this on in our last class, but yeah, it's just class names. Classes use periods. Do you have any students that go into data science from your boot camp? Not really. It's kind of a completely different skill set. Yeah, there are other data sciencey boot camps that you could go to. It's just, I think full stack web development is slightly faster to getting a job, so I rather folks do full stack web development. If you have a love for data science, so many other places you could learn that stuff. Can you show us an example of a website that you find to be particularly impressive? I don't have anything off the top of my mind, but let me think about it. And maybe I can show one during class that I find particularly impressive. I don't really have anything off the top of my dome. All right, folks. We are at the top of the hour. And so that means we are kind of out of time for today. We did our 3 hours. We always like to kind of keep office hours to around 3 hours. And so thank you all for a wonderful office hour session. As always, I like to end with a raid. And so let's go ahead and end with a raid. Let's send somebody some love and positivity. Give them some follows if you haven't already followed them. Let's go ahead and do that. If you're new around here, we always like to end with a lovely raid. When you raid, you get more channel points. And so why wouldn't you want channel points to get cool stuff, unlock cool stuff? And so let's go ahead and give somebody a raid. Some love and positivity their way. And then I will see you all on Tuesday. On Tuesday, we're back with class. We're diving more deeper into CSS, having some more fun with it. So I'm starting to raid now. I'll see you all over there. I'm going to hang out for a little bit. Cool. Queuing it up. Thank you for giving me some of your lovely Sunday. Sorry the first cam went down. Good thing we had the backup cam, but I will see you all on Tuesday. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Be well. Let's raid.